A lot faster than I do.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the planning board meeting for January 21st, 2026 to order. And Jill, if you would take the roll, please.
Heidi.
Excuse me.
Rupert Friday.
Here.
James Grundy.
Here?
Stephen D. Simone.
Here.
Thomas Callahan.
Here.
Dr. O'Neill.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a full board. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Heidi. The first order of business is the 2025 annual report for review and possible action. I'd like to have a motion to defer that item to under the G tonight.
I move that we move the agenda item A1, the annual report review, under G.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next on the agenda is a public hearing for Indian Rock Farm Road parcel. The applicant's name is Carr. It's preliminary plan approval with Unified Development Review. Plat Y4, Lot 4, 707 Point Judith Road is the address. Before you get up to speak, Mr. Grundy pulled me aside at the beginning of just before the meeting started. Said he had raised a question with our counsel, Mr. Craven. I'd like, Jim, if you could, to raise that question and we deal with that first so that we don't put you through on an unnecessary pain and suffering next tonight.
My concern was, in light of the recent Westerly decision from Judge Lanfear and how they interpret what relief can and can't be granted, the way an ordinance is written, when you read section B1, frontage on streets, there's a requirement in development standards for a certain amount of frontage, but the passage doesn't have a clause in it allowing us to grant relief. And I'm not talking about the merits of whether or not I like this or not, but my concern is whether or not we can grant a relief that isn't specifically allowed within the ordinance in light of the Westerly decision.
Bob?
I have some concerns as well. The Westerly case is not alone anymore. There's been another case that's come down to the pipeline that is also different subject matter, but the same theory of the court said that, the land use judge said that if it's not specifically stated, you can't grant that relief. So, John, do you want to address that? Or?
I'm not specifically familiar with the Westerly case.
Yep.
I don't know exactly what they said. I know that the Enabling Act allows for variances from provisions of the zoning ordinance. I would find it hard to believe that you can't find relief, that's the purpose of the zoning board, from certain provisions of the zoning ordinance. The zoning board in this case has granted relief from this specific provision, at least one that I'm aware of, and probably others. So we're asking for relief from it. I guess if there's a challenge to it, then it would be decided, but I think that in the absence of that, you have jurisdiction to decide it, and it's suggested we go forward.
If I could make two suggestions. Number one, my reading of Judge Lanfear's decision in that Wesley case was, he said that the planning board or the zoning board doesn't have the power if it says it can't be done. In other words, almost like relief can't be granted if the statute, or in this instance, the ordinance is written in such a way that it says that it can be interpreted that the board doesn't have authority. That being the case, if there might be something that you and I could talk about that I believe is going to be corrected legislatively. As a matter of fact, the bill's already been submitted. So I wouldn't want you to go through a process and me advise the board that the Wesley case speaks for itself. I don't think you have the authority to do it. And then have to either wait a year or appeal their denial. I think it might be worthwhile, if I were you, and we've known each other for a long time, to to postpone it to the next meeting and give you and I an opportunity to talk about it.
Okay, I'd like the opportunity to talk to my client about it.
Oh, sure,
We're
yeah.
prepared, our experts, we're ready to go.
Would you have any objection to allow them to present the experts so that they wouldn't have to bring them back another time and then not make a decision and he would hold off and ask for, I guess, an interruption in the presentation?
So your proposal is that we hear from his experts this evening, we question his experts this evening,
Yes,
that we get any public comment with respect to the expert testimony this evening, and then that we hold this in abeyance until either there's some type of legislative action or there's an opportunity for the two of you to converse
yeah.
and bring it back.
It,
Do we have, if we do that, Bob, do we have to, if we open a public hearing, do we have to agree to a date certain?
we do because there's advertising that's taken place and
Right.
the people that were advertised that came here tonight would be noticed that we'll be back on whatever the date is. It's not the best way to handle it. I'm just concerned that they paid an expert to come, but
Yeah, we paid two experts to come. And, you know, I will say this, I know it's a Superior Court decision, and somebody may or may not think it applies to the Narragansett ordinance. It may or may not. I mean, it's a Superior Court decision, it's not binding on other communities, other facts, other situations.
you're intuitive because I believe that the westerly ordinance was captured as the reason why that the judge said that, as opposed to generally speaking. But that the case has not been interpreted any other way. And as I said, another subject matter, but the same idea. Another case has come down from Judge Lancia. He did the same thing. So I'm wondering if. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, no.
Mr.
Wait
Pimentel
just a minute, yeah.
is
So,
the oracle of all knowledge.
so we do have certain time constraints.
I know,
This is
that's what I was
this is a
gonna say.
unified development, so
I know.
it's got, the clock is running. We could agree to extend that time period.
Yes.
On the subdivision. I guess I'd like to take a minute.
Yeah.
And then, I would prefer to go forward. I would prefer to go forward and put testimony on the record and then continue the matter so that we could discuss it, or if there's legislative action that's going to be taken, then so be it. So
And
can I have a 5
Mr.
minute?
Gary, I'd like to just consult with my board colleagues as well. I'm only one person here. I have a preference to do this all at one time as opposed to doing it and then coming back at it again when the testimony is not as fresh in everybody's mind. So, but on one vote, I just would like to consult with my colleagues on that as well.
I do hear you, but if it doesn't get continued to a date certain, as your counsel said, I mean, we've had to send out notices, you had to advertise it. We gotta go through that process all over again.
No, but if you basically tonight open the public hearing, don't present your experts, don't present the testimony, basically put it in abeyance until the date in which, until the date certain is called, then we will have the opportunity to hear everything at that evening. As opposed to taking part of it now and part of it later.
Right, but the date certain has to be established.
Correct.
Right
Correct.
now.
Completely agree
Tonight,
with that.
yep.
Completely agree with that. So if you want to consult with
Okay,
them,
5 minutes?
sure, and we'll, go
Make a
ahead.
motion for recess?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
5 minutes.
Thank you.
Who called the recess?
Nice.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, appreciate the courtesy of the recess. So, we agree that it should be continued. We'd like to, my expert is not available at the next meeting, but I'd like to continue it for a month, and then if necessary, continue it again, so that we don't lose, you know, if we're able to go forward, then we'll go forward. My gut is telling me that we're not gonna be able to go forward in a month, but my preference is to continue it from month to month, rather than to some.
No, I agree, no, I agree. So, Bob, do you have anything to add?
No,
You good? Jill, you good?
All set, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so I look for a motion to continue this
So moved.
public hearing.
Do we have to open it first?
I think we
No?
did.
Okay, sorry.
You just want the date certain, Mr. Chairman. Heidi should have that.
February
For
18th.
February 18th.
Mr. Chair, do we have to get an extension of time as part of that motion?
Not at this point, I don't believe so, Mr. Garahy, but possibly in February.
Yes, thank you. Agreed.
Okay,
Thank you.
so there's a motion to continue to a date certain being February 18th, is that correct?
Correct.
I'll second.
Second?
Who made the
Oh.
motion?
Done.
Oh, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Okay,
I think
no,
we
thank
just
you.
shortened your meeting.
I did.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Sorry, Paul. See you next month.
Thank you.
No, I'm not infected, but I'm worried that tomorrow I'll wake up and I'll have a fever and then retroactively.
I got you. I didn't wanna
I have
come
an
over,
abundance of thought.
I don't wanna come over hungry.
At least he has an excuse now.
You're done.
She's not.
Okay, let's move on. Next
See you
order.
next week.
Next order.
Sorry.
It's okay. Jack? Jack, thank you. The next order of business this evening would be a site review for Zulo, which is in your packages as project summary Zulo, tax assessor's plat N, lot 73. Its location is 16 Elm Avenue. Quick summary of what we're being asked to consider this evening is the applicant has submitted a request to elevate the existing dwelling, demolish the existing rear yard deck and covered front entryway, and construct two new attached multi-tiered decks with stairs in the front and the rear yards at the above referenced property. This project requires a variance and a special use permit from the Coastal Resources Overlay District, section 4.4, variances from the dimensional regulations 6.4, and a variance from the softscape requirements, section 7.6H. The property is also located in the special flood hazard area, section 4.7. Specific relief that's being requested is a 157-foot variance and special use permit from the Coastal Resources Overlay District. In section 6.4, the dimensional regulations, 5-foot 9-inch front yard setback variance, and 4-foot 6-inch building height variance, and a variance in section 7.6H softscape requirements, 2% or 6.5 square feet on a soft rear variance. Is Ms. Zulo or Ms. Zulo is, or are you representing yourself this evening?
Yes.
You have the floor. And I deferred to Ms. Zulo because I believe you were the person who signed the application.
You're Heidi?
Yes, I am.
Thank you so much for your help, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome.
Guiding me on
Oh,
this.
absolutely.
So if you could take us through what you're planning and
Sure.
that,
So we just recently bought in September, happy to be here. Similar to what our neighbors immediately to the right and the neighbor across the street is currently doing, we want to elevate the house so it's FEMA compliant, since we are in a flood zone, and make it a little bit more efficient. So with doing that, we're gaining the ground level to put a garage there as well. since the current entrance is on the ground floor, there is no deck. Since we're raising it, the point of entrance will be on the new main floor, which is why we are having the new front decks on the front of the house. Because we are not gonna have an entrance on the ground floor. And on the back deck, the deck that is currently there is the same depth as the new proposed deck, which is approximately 12 feet. We are widening the deck, which would be a new deck, which would be approximately, I believe, 24 or 26 feet wide, same depth. Again, to be FEMA compliant, we are in a flood zone, following similar to what many of our neighbors on the street and surrounding neighborhoods have done to be higher elevated. That's our main objective.
Okay. I will start with, Jim, do you have questions or comments on this?
No, I understand the concerns with sea level rising, moving the houses up.
Steve?
Now, also, I totally get it, you gotta lift the house, and your front variance is so you can get into the house. I drove by the house today, actually saw you guys.
Oh.
Yeah, I was in my wife's minivan.
Okay.
And you have a second floor, kind of a deck on the
But
house now that's fallen
it's not
in.
very
Not safe, for sure, so, I don't have any questions, it makes perfect sense to me.
Thank you.
Rupert?
Yeah, I was by it, I guess, yesterday, and it seems like you have contractors there now?
So the neighbor across the street is lifting her house, and then our contractor submitted a separate permit to Wayne probably like a week or two ago, just to start gutting the inside of the house. So there's nothing inside of the house right now.
Okay.
So we're going to redo the bathrooms and all of that. So right now that I think that past building, we're on fire inspection, but there is no,
So you
to
have,
my knowledge.
you have a permit for what's going on, yeah.
According per what our contractor, I believe, said, so.
Yeah, it's all been filed.
Yeah.
And then I have a question for staff. So the report says maximum height limit allowed for above BFE SDE for this project is 21 feet. The proposed dwelling is elevated to 25 feet 6 inches and exceeding the maximum permitted height. And you could help me understand that? I don't get that.
So if it was not being considered under FEMA standards, then the maximum permitted height would be 30 feet. But because it's in a flood zone, the way that Wayne, the building official, calculates how high the home could go, it's an average of the 4 points of the home. So with that being said, it's only permitted to be 21 feet. So currently, the house, as proposed, is 25 feet 6 inches.
Okay. So really, so like asking for a modification, would that
It
qualify for that?
exceeded, yeah, so that was a conversation that was had, and they do exceed, considering all the other dimensional relief that they need, they would not qualify for a modification.
Okay, so that's why the building height variance,
Mhm.
okay.
We did discuss that, and we tried.
Yeah.
That's what my neighbor across the street did, but we couldn't do that, unfortunately. So the proposed final height of the structure will be 34.6, I believe.
Got it. Well, that's all I have.
Rob?
Yeah, two things. Number one is, we're asking for, there's 4 variances.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, continue.
Yeah. If you've been in here before, there's no way I can support that many variances in any project, so you know that. The second thing is, my old gray hair is talking, that neighborhood is just all those little cottages moving, away from the water. I just feel bad, because the flavor of Narragansett, it's like all the places, not just you, but everybody near the water is going up. And all those people with those cottages in the back, there is no water view or connection with the water like they had in the good old days. But progress is progress, and obviously you want to do what you would like to do here, but I can't support 4 variances because you probably know we spent years creating the rules and regulation that we have. Where do you stop? 6 inches, 6 feet, you know, where do you stop? So I can't support it. Like you presented it. I know what you want to do, I understand it, but I can't support it.
So, let me just pick up on Doc's comments here. Did you, as you looked at the variances that would be required, did you look at alternatives that would either reduce or eliminate the need for a variance? And if so, if you opted to go forward as you've opted to go forward, help us understand why these variances are needed from your vantage point.
Sure. I believe if we had a entry on the ground floor, which would potentially eliminate some of the front decks, which is to code. They did the width that was supposed to be to code for the proposed engineered plans. That would be another option. We wanted to have the entrance to walk up so you could also have the view of the deck if you're a little higher up.
I think we still wind up in with the same predicament though, with the ground floor entrance, the primary entrance to the home, without requesting the variance. So,
And we don't have the stairs, we're not planning to create stairs inside the garage to go upstairs, so there's no current entry point inside there. So going back to your point in terms of the community, that I understand, I do understand that. I would say if you drive down that street, Pine Street, and a few other streets in that Chestnut, I would say the majority of the homes are raised for obvious reasons, as it's very close to the flood zone. So that's one of our concerns, just thinking again down the road. This house we're not changing the aesthetic of the outside of the house in any material way besides adding that Juliet balcony is there, it's just not safe, the current one that's there. So it we has to be replaced. If you guys can't go out in it right now. And the new deck, that's not a big lavish deck, it's simply to walk up to enter the home. The back decking here, the top deck is the same size as the current deck, which was approved many, many years ago. We're just adding a new deck on it will be the new ground floor. So, no, we haven't explored other potential alternatives if we're not granted these variances. The setbacks and other things like that, I think, are unfortunately out of our control based on where the house is. So behind our house is the wetlands. So we are fully aware of that. We're not intruding on the wetlands. We are not building out further past from when the current decking is. We're just going up. So that's kind of our perspective on it.
The other argument to be made here in terms of its impact on, some of the other houses in the area, by making this safer, by having breakaway walls, by having flood vents, you reduce the risk of something catastrophic happening with the house where it impacts other homes around it. For example, the home to the left of us, back in Hurricane Sandy, was completely lifted off and, according to our neighbor, was found floating in the marshland behind the home. By raising the house, they mitigated those concerns. We hope to have the same impact by doing this work as well.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I don't have his name on file. Could I get your name, please?
Oh yeah, I'm her husband, Jeff.
I'm sorry?
Jeffrey.
Jeff.
Jeff? Okay, thank you.
Amanda, is this your project?
It is.
Do you have the overhead photograph of the area? I just want to. So, could you? I don't know if there's a pointer up there or not, but if not, you could use this one here.
Sure.
Can you just point out which houses are essentially have been raised or in the process of being raised?
Yes, so this home here,
Yep.
this home here,
Well, that helps, just to be clear,
One
you don't need
second.
This is our neighbor's home. I believe it was raised in 2012. So we're doing something very similar to what they did. This is the home that my husband was saying during Sandy flooded back here, basically. This house is no longer here. It was recently demolished, and they just put a modular home in the area, where they have a double deck now in the modular home, and it's up to that, just under that, I believe, that 35 feet threshold. Directly across us, this lot over here is in the process, I don't remember the exact number on the street, but they are in the process of raising their home as well. So their house was just lifted to 34.6 feet. So the difference between her house and our house is she does have a portico here, but they're putting an elevator and the whole thing. We're not doing that. We just need a simple way to get into our house. That's why we're doing it on the front, and we're not doing an access.
And the top left is also.
Correct.
And and there's no side yard relief that's being sought here, right?
Correct.
On either
So-
side, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
So just to confirm, just to reiterate, this is the current deck. The depth is 12 feet. We are not going further than this. We are going a little over because of our kitchen doors here, and we don't want to step out and fall. So we're extending the new main floor deck simply for those reasons, for those structural and engineering reasons.
Yeah, and then the front,
Yeah.
it would still extend the same depth off of the house, it's just wider in order to accommodate the steps up front.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There you go.
Any other questions?
I just think that, to build on Doc's point, that the relief, the bulk of this relief is pre-existing relief on the existing house. It isn't changing anything. The 157 feet variance from the coastal overlay is what's currently there. The 5.9 feet on the front yard setback looks to me like it's also there. The only difference is the stair, which is required to make the elevation change. The 4-foot 6-inch building height variance is simply to get a standard building, a full floor, not to have a half floor in the middle of a house. And that seems to be more of a climate change driven request for variance. So we're down to the softscape requirement at the 2% or 6.5 feet. And I think that, at least my opinion, that the benefit to the town of mitigating a hazard is worth 6.5 feet. I don't think that there's any excessive relief being requested here, but I understand your concern that when you see 4 pieces of relief, that's troubling, but I think if the relief is needed by the existing property in its current state, it's not as troubling to me as if they're creating the need for the relief.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with raising the house. We get the category 3, right? They have to. But the idea of having 4 variances on one proposal there are ways to mitigate such things, not the elevation, can't do anything about that. You gotta get up at that floor. I don't.
So that was my point, Doctor, is that 3 of these reliefs, I don't think they have the ability to mitigate.
Well, 3 of these, I think your point is 3 of these reliefs are pre-existing.
Yes.
And then it doesn't basically, it's not new relief that's being sought, it's relief that is existing on the existing site.
And
I think is what I think.
Yes, I think the 6.5 feet for the softscape is affected simply by the stairs to accommodate the change in elevation from the living space to the ground.
Steve?
I just to piggyback on that, I also think in light of last night's town council meeting, if they were to apply today, I don't think they need the height variance either. Because is that not correct?
No, the height.
Oh, that's right, they didn't change the height back. That's the one they didn't change back. Well, either way, 4.6 would have been a waiver had they not needed the other variances that were pre-existing. So it would have been a modification, so I'm not gonna have a problem with it. But I see what you're saying, it's a lot. It seems like a lot to me.
Rupert, anything else?
No,
Doc? Go ahead.
No. You're a great presenter.
Oh,
Last
thank
night,
you.
yeah, no, you are. Last night, there's this whole discussion about, these poor unfortunate people. 3.2% of the people going into the building inspector's office have to come here, And the cost is just terrible. You're wonderful, you're a great example. And over my many years, we've had people present like you have. What's your profession?
Me or my husband, or both. But, I work in investor relations at a finance firm, but I work in technology.
Yeah, I work in product development for a healthcare company.
Well, you present really very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have no further questions, I just make one observation when you go to the zoning board.
Sure.
The zoning board has got this requirement with respect to the relief requested under the coastal resources.
Yep.
That suggests that they have to make an affirmative finding that the relief that you're seeking, even though it's pre-existing to the point that actually enhances the protection of the coastal resource.
Yeah.
So,
They addressed that, Tom. They said the house next door actually went into the wetland, and now they won't, because they're being lifted.
yeah, I guess.
So remember that and say it to the zoning board.
So a little bit more context, so simultaneously, as I've been talking to a lot of people in your office, who've been great help, by the way, in guiding me with this. The CRMC, we did submit to them as well simultaneously, understanding they really can't do anything until we get a letter from the town of Narragansett saying like conditional approval, that you guys won't issue us the permit to lift the house until CRMC signs off. They did nicely enough give us a preliminary list as well of things that they required. So we're simultaneously working with them as well. We're getting everything prepared for that. So once we do, hopefully, get to that point with the town of Narragansett and get that conditional approval, we're going to take that letter from Wayne and submit everything to the CRMC. So we have that preliminary list we're working on.
You said in your testimony that you've got contractors in, did you say gutting the inside?
Yeah, so the house has been empty, it's been vacant since the current owners left in September. They weren't primary residents, so they are in there now. We're going to redo the bathrooms, sand the floors, things like that.
Keep the same number of bedrooms, 3?
Yes, as of now, technically, I won't say technically, you're right, there's 3. We'll eventually add a closet once we're not there. None of that work has started. Those will be submitted as part of the submission the contractor submitted to the town already. And then, from my understanding, they'll come and do electrical inspections and all of that once we get to that point. So once everything's done, once we get to the point for the inside of the house, we will make sure that the town has all those plans for assessing, tax, all of that, so it's exactly how the house is and where store your records are.
But the intention is to keep it as a 3-bedroom?
Yes.
Yes.
So, unless somebody has something else, entertain a motion. We'd like to close the...
Did you want to
Oh, I'm
have
sorry,
comment?
staff, pardon moi.
No,
I'm a rookie.
No, Mr.
I'm a
Mr.
rookie.
Chairman, it's not a public hearing, so you don't have to close.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Public too, yes.
so it's a motion for completeness and
Not
conformance.
yet. Is there anyone here who's present who would like to speak on either for or against this proposal? No, okay. So, I guess...
It's easy. The application is complete and conforms to town comprehensive plan.
Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
I'm hesitant on the motion, so one of you guys make the motion.
Jim, you want to make the motion, or Steve?
We'll give it a try. I would make a motion that we approve the site review for Plat N, Lot 73, 16 Elm Ave, and with this approval, grant the relief from Section 4.4 Coastal Resource overlay district granting 157 feet variance in a special use permit. Section 6.4, the dimensional regulation for the 5.9 feet front yard setback variance. The 4-foot 6-inch building height variance. Section 7.6H softscape requirement for the 2% or 6.5 square foot variance. And then we have to make the findings. Do you traditionally go through the comp plan findings as well with this?
That's up for the board's discretion.
I think it was listed that this will promote, it's consistent with the neighborhood, it provides protection to the natural resources and the open space, as in LU 2.2. Under LU 2.3, it enhances the town's natural resources, again providing protection, and that's also found under NR 1.1. I think in accordance with Section 11, Section 12 of zoning ordinance, the hardship, if this were not granted, is more than a minor inconvenience to the users, and that they did not create the hardship, as they're not solely responsible for global warming. So, do we need to go through the?
Yes.
Okay, so as we get further in, under section 18.5, do you want these 16 enumerated or just referenced?
Just reference.
That we have reviewed the all 16 conditions as they apply. And we also have, is there anything else we need to find, Joe?
I don't recall if you had mentioned that you wanted to recommend approval with the outlined conditions 1 through 6.
So have you've seen this report?
The
That
one
we're-
agenda.
Yes, it's on the agenda, and you've had an opportunity to review the conditions that are listed there?
I believe so.
Presume they're on pages 4 through 8, there's 6 conditions.
Yep.
Yes.
So presumably you have no objections, concerns about those conditions?
I didn't.
No, because, again, I'm doing the assent with the CRMC, that application. We have the elevation certificate, the plans. Sorry. No.
Yeah, we read through all these.
Okay.
notes.
So we condition it with the 6 conditions listed on pages 4 and 5 of the staff report.
Yep.
And I believe that's all we have to the findings.
Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No opposed.
Thank you.
You're
for
good to
your
go.
time.
You're good.
To the zoning
Good
board.
luck.
I know, that's my next question.
You'll hear from me with the information you need to do for your butters next week.
Thank you all. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you,
Have a good night.
appreciate it.
All right, so we're on to item D. Before we proceed, let me ask a question. Jack, are we going in detail on your proposal tonight, or are we simply going to be agreeing to your providing an opportunity, a variance in terms of the time frame that we're looking at here? If it's the latter, I'll take you now. If it's the former, we're going to do the other one first.
I'd like to talk about it. I'd like to clean up as much as we can so it's becomes less burdensome down the line.
Okay, well, I'm going to hold you, I'm
Okay.
going to hold you for a minute. So the next item of business is the, we have a referral from the town council on the zoning ordinance amendment, section 7.23, student occupied dwellings. The specific proposal from the town council is essentially to add language under section 7.23, student occupied dwellings located in an R10, R10A, or R20 zone. The new language would strike, so it would be a dwelling or dwelling unit shall not be occupied by more than, instead of 3, it would be 5 college students, unless the building in which the dwelling is located is owner occupied. The following is new language. The maximum number shall be 1 college student per bedroom and shall not exceed 5 college students per dwelling. The maximum number shall not apply to NARR, which I assume is Narragansett Certified Recovery Residences. So that is the proposal in front of us this evening. I guess I would, since there's not a proponent here to represent the council's point of view, I guess I would first open it up to the board, then invite public comment, come back to the board, and then see where we end up. Does that make sense? Okay, so, open for comments.
It was interesting you said that NAR, because I had to look that up. Apparently it wasn't Narragansett. It's a national accreditation, which kind of surprised me because it was just too close.
Right.
My feeling, I have several houses around me that have students in them. We've seen some exceptional measures that they've taken. Some have even put these stickers on their mailbox that show their pictures and their names and their phone numbers, that if you have a problem, to call them, and this is where we live. I think problems can come whether they're students or not. It's people, and I find that putting a lot of blame on students is sometimes misplaced. I think you have to take them individually. So I don't have any issue going to 5. I do like the 1 person per bedroom, but I think I didn't understand why we have an exception for recovery center and we're going to treat students in a more restrictive manner. I don't know.
Supervision.
I read about NAR centers, they're not all necessarily supervised. There's 4 different levels of them.
So, Mr. Grundy, that language came straight from the state law. So I believe that the town council just adopted the same language that was in, or similar language, I should say, that was in the definition of household.
That's what I was going to say, state law definition for household. And I guess I had a question for our council. So I think it makes sense in household. Does it make sense in the student piece? I mean, is that necessary to have there? I mean, are there student involved recovery centers? It just seems like it may not be needed there.
I don't think it changes the meaning. I think it's belt and suspenders. I think they felt as though there were other analogous parts of the law, that this was just doing it for students here. There's a great deal of concern. As a matter of fact, if my memory's correct, I think there's a piece of legislation that's been submitted by your local representative that's going to codify this in state law. And the ACLU getting involved has created a lot of concerns about equal rights. Students are being treated differently, their suspect classification, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not sure I agree with all that, but this is a reaction to politicians in an election year.
An honest person.
So I got a couple things. First and foremost, I just wanted to let everybody know and stay above board. My father owns a rental, my uncle owns a rental, my sister owns a rental. They all rent to college students, and they are all located in an R80 zone. So this does not affect my family or me in any way, so I don't feel the need to recuse myself from this. We've all been through this before, so I'm just going to repeat a couple of things for James because he wasn't here. I agree that the problem is people, not necessarily students. We've already established a lot of laws that tamp down on students being good or bad neighbors. I was once a student neighbor in this town and in South Kingstown. Not a particularly good one. And never lived with, well, one, in South Kingstown we lived with more than 3 people. But I can assure you, me by myself, not great for the neighbors. So, my biggest issue when they passed this the first time, and what I brought up the last time, is the 3-student limit is both a limit on people's property rights, but more importantly, a limit on the supply of housing in a town where we have an affordability issue already. I've said in another meeting that I reached out to the several brokerages in town that manage upwards of 300 rentals that are seasonal and otherwise, and what I've heard from all of them is somewhere between 5 and 10% of their rental stock goes unrented every year to students in the winter, which means we are in fact meeting the supply demands currently of the University of Rhode Island. I know they have a lot of students and we don't house many of them, and they don't house all of them. So some are commuting from home, some are renting in other towns like I did in South Kingstown. But what happened when they passed this the first time, and this is from the brokerages in town, year-round rental numbers decreased. Because if you have 100 houses in town that can rent to 5 students, and now they can rent to 3, that's 200 students looking for rentals somewhere else. 200 students that can afford to rent in this town, which drives a higher demand, which drives a higher price per bedroom, per house. And then people who are renting year-round go, maybe I can make a little bit more renting seasonally. So I'm fully in favor of a upper end limit. I don't think you should have 30 kids in a house, despite the fact that I would bunk up with my friends. I know when my freshman year we lived 4 to a room, but that was on campus. So I think it was nice to put in a 1 per bedroom, even though I've rented and bunked up with guys. It'll definitely keep the noise down. And the 5 seems reasonable to me because there aren't that many houses that are more than 5 bedrooms anyway. And I can certainly empathize with anybody living next to a 10-bedroom house that might have 20 kids in it. That seems outrageous to me. So I don't have a problem with this as written, but those are my thoughts.
Hubert?
So I'll start with a quote from the famous philosopher Yogi Berra. This is deja vu all over again.
And again.
And again, yeah. So I guess my first thought is something that I think we probably can all agree on. I think we should add the word legal in front of bedroom. So it reads 1 college student per legal bedroom. And I don't know if everybody else here would agree with that, but in my experience here, we've had a number of projects where we're legalizing bedrooms, and when we review projects, we see things that clearly aren't bedrooms, but anyhow, so I don't know if everyone else agrees with that. But,
Sure, I wouldn't object to that. I've lived in a closet.
So it seems, from the concept perspective, it seems to me that Narragansett's goals for student housing are to accommodate about 6,000 students living in town in a way that's not disruptive to the quality of life, and others living here on a year-round basis, and in a way that does not drive economics of real estate so that rentals are unaffordable for families and people working in the community. So that's sort of with that frame, and I think the history of student housing here developed organically. I think when folks that were URI when I was in college, or council. I think they were renting 1, 2, maybe 3 small summer cottages, bedroom summer cottages. I think it was very rare to rent 4 or 5 bedroom houses back then. And I think that has changed. I think that investors have bought houses in recent years, so converted them to student rentals, and it's lucrative. So if you rent by the bedroom, which is what happens with the student housing, you know, if it's a 1, 2, 3 bedroom house, that's $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month. That's something that I think families and people working in the community can afford. When it gets to $4,000 a month, $5,000 a month, I think that becomes unaffordable for families. So that's why I think the 3 students make sense, and that's why I've supported that historically. And then the sort of impact, although I didn't have Steve living next door, in my neighborhood, you know, I've lived 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 students in a house, and when there's 2, 3 students in a house, they blend seamlessly into the neighborhood. They're not disruptive. You don't even know that there's student housing there. When you end up with 4 and 5 students in a house, it varies depending on the group of students you have. It varies from year to year and the students you have. But that's where it's been really disruptive to the neighborhood and the quality of life for families living year-round. So that's why my perspective has remained what it has since years before I was on the planning board. So, yeah.
Doc?
You know, this is deja vu, and this goes on for years. We spent, I don't know how many hours, yeah, I'm sorry.
Turn out the light.
The party's over. No, this goes on and on and on and on. If you have 2 noisy students and they get on the internet, they can raise hell like this weekend. Whether you have 2 or 5, why do we? I don't know how this word "student" can be used. It's so prejudicial. In the summer, there are a lot of. I'm originally from Jersey. All those clowns come up here. They raise hell in these neighborhoods. They do. So why are we using this word "student" to correct the problem? The difficulty, and I'm sure it's legalistic and everything, is enforcement.
Yes.
Enforcement. I can tell you, with Steve still here, there are houses around in Narragansett. They got 9 cars sitting in the driveway all the time. Well, are you all the numbers you ever want? Well, why don't the neighbors do something? Because they're afraid. Some of these people are they're mean. So, I mean, first of all, I don't like the word students. Again, whether it's 3, 4, or 5, that's not the issue. What we want is peace and quiet in the neighbors, in the neighborhood. It's enforcement. That, to me, that's the issue. I know it's difficult. Everybody has rights, but Steve exerted his rights as a student.
I would have gotten a sticker.
I mean, this is the law, and it's the law. But first of all, I'm concerned. First of all, the word "student" is prejudicial. Everybody in this room has been a student at some time. So, and the number isn't. That's not the issue. It's enforcement, and they've been waving that forever. Been waving that flag forever. Oh, this is going to solve the problem. How does that solve the problem? It does, in terms of disturbance of the neighborhood. In terms of housing, maybe. I think you have a very good point there. The problem is, as you increase the numbers, you increase the income, and it's very unusual. If you look at the numbers, the rental prices of these places, it's unusual that it's affordable. So that whole pitch of, well, you know, we can make this affordable. How do you make that affordable? If you can get X dollars per bedroom, whether it's still summer or winter, you pay off your mortgage quicker and get another property. It's enforcement. That's the issue. And as far as I'm concerned, that's the law. 5. And the terminology, as you can hear my frustration, I've been listening to this for what, 25, 30 years, I don't know. But this came up years ago in these board meetings. We spent hours on this with neighborhoods and everything. I think the last time we did the town comprehensive plan, we had hearings on this. We spent hours on that. You guys are gonna enjoy that because that's coming up was it next year, Joe?
Yes, you're
Yeah.
starting, yeah,
These
they'll be
guys
starting
gonna love
soon.
it.
Isn't that the committee that we have an maritime board member, chair, Doc? You? No, I'm just.
That's 30, for the public, that's 32 extra meetings for this board. The last time, I don't know what it was. In any case, those are my comments. Obviously, I'm rambling on here, but this goes on and on and on. It's enforcement. If you're trying to keep the neighborhood quiet, whether somebody pointed out how many 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom, 3-bedroom houses we have. And if you own one and you want to rent it out, so be it. But how you control the noise in the neighborhood, that's tricky. That's tricky. My feeling is you come down heavy, you come down hard. And the owner, this business of the students have their names on the mailbox or on the front door. Somebody's making money off this. They should pay a hell of a fine, as far as I'm concerned. If you allow that on your property, those 9 cars there, you know what's going on. You're collecting the rent. You can correct it. If you got 9 cars, that's 9,000 the first fine. Wait a minute. In any case, that's my vote.
Second offense, you forfeit the house.
Well, it's interesting that Steve DeSimone has become the poster child for 3 students. So my perspective is shaped basically by 2 things. One is Narragansett has been discussing affordability for quite some time. Doc's right. And if you look at the numbers, Narragansett currently is providing affordable housing. But the question is, who is it providing affordable housing for? And the answer is for students from the University of Rhode Island. If you look at the census data from 2020, Narragansett's poverty rate is listed at 18.2%. How can a town whose houses sell for an average of $900,000, or whatever the case might be, whose residents live here or are retired here, how can it be that Narragansett is 18.2% of the population, which is the 4th highest in the state, live in Narragansett? And the answer to that question is because of the predominance of the student population here. Census is taken first day of April every year, and that accounts for that change. So for those who have argued over time that Narragansett is not meeting its obligations for providing affordable housing as it's currently understood, they're right. But if you look at it more broadly, Narragansett has met an obligation that the state is essentially not foisted upon them, but by not providing ample housing on campus for students, has essentially found its way here. Organically, I think, as I think as Rupert has said, over a number of decades. But in the meantime, from what was a mom and pop operation when my mother-in-law and my father-in-law owned their house over on Sewell Road with a bunch of other people from their neighborhood who lived in Silver Lake, rented the place in the winter times and then vacation there in the summertime. It's moved from basically being a mom and pop operation to a highly monetized investment community out there. That's not to say it's uniform. I don't want to say that, but it's uniform. So if you are going to do something about affordable housing in Narragansett, you have to do something about the number of students who are here. There aren't a lot of tools. There just aren't. This is one, and whether it's effective or not, I think is open to debate. But it is one that's there that is potentially useful. The second thing, the second perspective that I bring to this one is, I worked for 22 years at the University of Connecticut in stores. Actually, spent 3 of those years out at the health center in Farmington, so 19 years in stores. Stores is like Narragansett in the sense that the number of students that are in the community are a substantial number of students, and there are a substantial number of students living off campus, still not like the University of Rhode Island. When I was there, we were housing about 68, almost 70% of the students, undergraduate students, were living on campus. At URI, it's less than 50%. There were neighborhoods that were adjacent to the university, on the northwest flank of the university, for which over a number of years had been the neighborhoods that staff, faculty, and families had lived in. And over time, 1 or 2 of those houses began to sell. They were rented to students, and to your point, students are people too. But you have to account not only for the students, but you have to account for, is the landlord attentive? Is the landlord taking care of the property? And is it managed by the landlord, or is it managed by a third party? Who is that third party? How attentive are they? There's a lot of factors that go into this stuff. But the point of the tale is, over time, as those houses flipped, kids rented the houses, they weren't properly managed. That whole neighborhood, over time, changed. And over a 10-year period of time, the neighborhood was destabilized and became fully student housing. So, from my vantage, the town of Mansfield, in response to that, adopted its own student, no more than, and it was no more than 4. And that was the number that they settled on. So, if we are interested, I guess the policy question is, from a town council point of view, I would frame the policy council, the policy question is, A, who do you want to provide affordable housing for? B, is 5 to 7,000, which is the number that's quoted, of students in Narragansett on a population of 14. Is that the right number? Do you want to encourage that number? Do you want to encourage more? Do you want to encourage less? And if so, how do you go about doing that? So that's kind of how I come at this issue. And for those reasons, I'm inclined to support the 3-student ordinance as it currently stands. I know we'll take a stop there. I will invite other people here who are looking to speak tonight. I invite you to the podium to come up to speak. Yes. Please identify yourself.
Good evening, and thank you. My name is Diana Pearson. I'm an attorney. I have been since I went to law school with Solicitor Craven. I have offices at 1050 Main Street in East Greenwich. I am here in my capacity as the attorney who filed the petition for writ of mandamus to enforce the 3 college student ordinance. A mandamus petition is simply asking the court to have a governmental official enforce a law that's on the books. 18 months ago, the town, regardless of whose advice and how it came about, chose not to enforce the 3 college student ordinance. There were violations that had been given, communications to homeowners, etc. And in the fall of 2024, a decision was made, don't enforce it. Presumably that was because the state enacted the 5 unrelated, 1 per bedroom. They are 2 separate and distinct ordinances and housing solutions. What the suggestion is now from the council is to simply apply the same number of 5 to the 5 unrelated. And really, if you walk down that road, why bother having the college student ordinance at all? If all you're going to have is 5 unrelateds versus 5 college students, what's the point? Certainly enforce it, but repeal it, change it, do something. However, to the comments that are made supporting, I'll say, the three as a number of college students, courts in this state have specifically decided college students are not a protected class. I know you want to say discriminated against, but in our world, in the legal business, a protected class is one that has been discriminated against and has suffered a history of that negative treatment. Race, ethnic, religion. College students aren't it. Frankly, they're just generally young. And young has its own behavior. And that legitimate purpose that prior councils, whether it was 3 or 4 college students as a number, that legitimate governmental interest has been found by the courts to be the purpose of the government. We want to do something with this issue, promote or restrict, but it's a legitimate governmental interest that the council and the planning board through the recommendation can see and enforce. We want to treat them differently because behavior, history, immaturity, history of problems potentially, you've heard them all before. They're 2 separate and distinct ordinances. The state's housing solution, which yes, the town adopted, 5 unrelated, 1 per bedroom. If that passes muster, whatever. However, what I am suggesting and asking is to maintain the 2 separate ordinances, the 3 college students. And historically, even though the town has not been enforcing the 3 college students, the records are replete with the fact that they're violating even the 5 unrelateds. The police reports, if you have them, sometimes they are noticed by the housing violation. They're terming it as there are more than the allowable bedrooms. And to your point, I think it was raised about legal bedrooms. A bedroom is defined as something very specific, which would make it legal. So the violations have noted whether or not there were legal bedrooms. But what the violations have come about in this past fall, and again, clearly it started in September and it went through the fall system, is that landlords were allowing multiple, in excess of the allowable bedrooms. And most of them were college students, and they're noted. One of them was 8 college students, 19 years old as the police officer noted, in a house that didn't call for it. They are not a protected class because courts in this state, Superior and Supreme Court, have noted they're not due extra protection. They're an issue that the town is entitled to attempt to solve for their behavior and or economically. I would ask you to keep that in mind, to simply take the 5 college students, identical to the 1 per bedroom. What's the point of the college student ordinance? The point of the college student ordinance is to keep them in check and in balance in the town of Narragansett. Thank you.
Are there, before you,
Yes.
are there questions or?
I just have a question.
Yes.
What would differentiate 4 college students living together than 4 kids that graduated high school and all went and got jobs?
Because they're full-time. They're full-time, presumably, they're paying rent, they're on yearly leases.
Well, that's an
They're
assumption.
responsible.
It's a yearly lease, it's an assumption that
You're right.
they're paying it. A lot of college kids, I paid my own way through college. I
Yeah.
paid my own bills and everything else, so.
But the unrelated is presuming it's a year lease, it's a full-time job. And the definition that Narragansett has had is very specific. student, undergraduate, graduate, university, etc. If they're not there, presuming they're working, does that give them an added sense of responsibility and maturity? I would say yes.
I think it varies upon the individual.
Absolutely, absolutely. But again, it's like kindergartners behave in a general way, high schoolers, and I would say 19-year-olds, as indicated in the Elm Street police report, 75 people at a party on September 25th. Police report and municipal violation tend to have a certain behavior. We all grow up because we've also all been there. But their behavior, their immaturity is something to keep an eye on. Hence, I would encourage the town to continue the 3 college students. Comments have been made, crowds and mobs lose their minds, Maybe less of them is a little bit more stable and calm. And again, it is something that the town has a legitimate purpose in controlling, maintaining, just like any other zoning. Let's keep them to a small group. It's a legitimate purpose upheld by the courts of this state. And I would encourage the board and the town council to maintain the 3 college students. The state and the town have done the 5 unrelateds. I think they're 2 different animals, tend to be. They're 2 different groups of people.
Anybody else?
Sure, I agree. We should just get rid of the college student ordinance altogether, because they are unrelated. For instance, when I was in college, one of our college-age renters was a National Guardsman who worked. He was the worst of the 3 of us. Many of my friends who didn't go to college, but rented seasonally in the town of Narragansett, are considerably worse than college students, because there are no collegiate consequences. If you get arrested in the town of Narragansett because you threw a rager and the cops had to come, there are consequences at the University of Rhode Island. If you're 20 years old and you throw a big party in the town of Narragansett and you just work, your boss probably not going to fire you. You're going to go to work the next day. So I agree with you. We should get rid of that. And as far as the discrimination, I understand the legal point you're making, but the way you made it, you say we got to keep them in check, we got to limit their number. I think if you look at historically discriminated against populations, you'll find they said the same things about them. So that's all I got.
Rupert? So, just before you sit down, so I've got this straight. The Supreme Court decision that was made back in, was it 2020, 2021?
The Providence one,
Providence one?
Elmhurst neighborhood,
Right.
that's good law, sure,
It remains good law,
Sure.
correct? And that's 3 students,
yes,
and it's currently being enforced.
yes.
And there-
Very
is there any-
specific
Is there any
neighborhoods.
pending litigation with respect to that ordinance in Providence?
That was Rhode Island Supreme Court, that was the last word going up to that level. There are Superior Court decisions, including Judge Taft-Carter a couple of years ago, Mitta versus Narragansett, on a slightly different issue. She very specifically says that language that I just gave. College students are not a protected class. The town is entitled to have specific zoning ordinances regarding them. They are not entitled to additional heightened scrutiny when it comes to whether or not an ordinance is unconstitutional for discrimination.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody else? Mr. Ferrandi?
Thank you, council members. Steve Ferrandi, I live at 44 Sylvan Road. I too agree that the ordinances are separate and distinct, and some of the reasons for the 3 college student ordinance in a neighborhood like mine, which is Eastwood Look, we have about 300 properties, probably upwards of about 70% at this point are student rentals and summer rentals. They do most of them are both. So if you take the average bedrooms, and we've got a lot of the 6-bedroom, we've got some 8-bedroom houses recently, so say the average is just 5 bedrooms, 3 to 5. If the student population is kept down to 3, that's hundreds of less cars, students, people, I guess you could say, in the neighborhood. So it bears less use on the neighborhood. It's just less people, it's less crowded. Less chances to have parties, I guess, with 3. But I just think they can coexist together, and I think you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And I contend that the 3 college student ordinance, as it stands right now, is stronger than the unrelated state ordinance. If the unrelated state ordinance, it was challenged about a year or so ago, and Judge Van Fist originally stated it was unconstitutional and vague, the state's unrelated. I'm not an attorney, but I know this happened. That judgment got turned around, he vacated. Everybody thinks they're just jumping to the 1 per bedroom up to 5 because of a comfort label. We don't have to say college, we don't have to do this. Providence still has their ordinance, like Mrs. Pierce had said. So you have this thought. Personally, I think that 3 college students passes muster more than the unrelated. And why are we throwing it out like everything else in this town sometimes? I could go on, but that's my point. And it does. I remember when the 3 college student was enforced, the neighborhood was more quiet. You had a 6-bedroom house that people were staying to 3, maybe 4. Maybe they would sneak another one in. So it was working. It was working. I know we don't like to say that college students is something wrong with it. Dr. O'Neill, it's not just all about the enforcement. You have to have rules around it initially. And the college student ordinance was working. The 1 per bedroom up to 5 was strictly a landlord-driven ordinance that was made to, personally, this is my opinion, was made to cloud our 3 student ordinance. They said, what's wrong with 1 per bedroom? Let's just go with that. Get rid of the 3 college student ordinance. And as you can see, the 3 college student ordinance today still doesn't get much credence unless you ask very pointed questions and understand that it does have credence. That's all I have to say. I hate to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think it would be good if the town of Narragansett would change it, keep it, and use your 2 ordinances. There's nothing wrong with having both ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Franny. Anybody else care to speak this night? Yes, sir.
Yes,
Name?
Neil Patrick, 17 Elm Ave. As a person in the Sand Hill Cove neighborhood, I'm proud and happy to have college students living next to me. I am happy to have college students living across the street from me. They're probably the best thing that happens to our neighborhood because our neighborhood, like many of Narragansett, we have snowbirds, we have summer people who are only here during the summer, and college students actually bring a little bit of activity to our quiet neighborhood during the off season. And in addition, I mean, just the other day I was walking down the street, and an older woman living on Pine Avenue ended up asking a college student, of all people, to help her mother shovel out her driveway so that she could have access to the street and access to the road. If we get rid of all the college students and make the neighborhood so quiet that we're unable to actually have neighbors, yes, that may put a lot less stress on the neighborhood, but it also reduces the neighborliness that actually happens and naturally happens with a good mix of people in different ages. So, I just want to make sure we also don't throw out the baby with the bathwater in attacking college students as a threat and as an issue for our town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Anybody else tonight? Okay, we'll go back to the group one more time. Do you want to add anything further at this point?
No,
Jim?
I have the same concern that Doc does, whether the courts see it as discriminatory, singling out college students or not. It's not going to change my personal feeling that the way it's written is a bit discriminatory, and I think 5 in line with the state statute, 1 per bedroom would be more appropriate.
Steve?
I feel the same way. Yeah, I haven't changed my opinion.
Okay. Rupert?
Pretty much the same spot. I do want to echo something that Mr. Frandy said. I think that the 5 unrelated ordinance at the state level, I think if it's challenged in court, I don't think it's defensible. I think there's some circular logic in how it's drafted. But yeah, I think 3 student ordinance, 3 or 5 is more defensible legally.
Doc?
Yeah, well, you heard my thoughts on this. 3, 4, or 5 isn't the issue. Pass all the laws you want. It's enforcement that's the issue. How you do it, I don't know, the legal people would have to discuss it. But in order for this to work, obviously, there's that small element that has to be corrected and take advantage of the neighbors, the neighborhood, and the housing here. I think your point is a good one in terms of we do provide a service to University of Rhode Island so they don't have to go through the gymnastics. Was it you who told me, Tom? That they do have in the works a plan to build a couple more dormitories, but it's already like out of date in terms of the number of beds. It really probably wouldn't even affect us if the number's so low.
Well, they have actually, the event came up tonight. There it is. Their master plan for housing and residence life. It was done by Skion. This is dated November 3rd, 2023. It was after President Palage.
2023?
No, 2023. Their existing capacity at that point in time was 5,511 beds over the course of a 14 to 15-year period. The game plan is to add an additional 700 beds to get them to 6,214 over a 14-year period of time. If you look at the plan in detail, it's hard to, they're underway to build some additional undergraduate and some graduate housing. I want to say about 1,000 beds. And we'll have to take offline to get the next group of additional beds on. They're going to have to take offline several dormitories that outlive their useful life to be renovated. So there's going to be this kind of period. There's going to be this. It's not a straight line, but over time, over the next 15 years, they plan to add 700 beds. I just on that point. It's interesting, and this is tangential, it's not directly related to the 3 student ordinance itself, but with respect to URI in its report and its master plan to their Board of Trustees in December of '24, said the quality and limited availability of housing options on or near campus was identified as the #1 issue impacting the student experience and growth of academic programs at the University of Rhode Island. And then it has a series of cascading negative impacts that include it deters enrollment among higher achieving and higher resourced students who have alternatives. It limits the enrollment of international graduate students who are more reliant on year-round housing. And it creates long commutes, and this is what the students are telling me, it creates long commutes living further out from campus. So, I mean, it's in the university's interest, as they have identified it themselves, to build more housing on campus. I just, in terms of trying to make a more balanced community in Narragansett, where you would have more long-term permanent residents and fewer short-term students. You're not going to turn that over entirely, and we shouldn't turn it over entirely. But there needs to, in my judgment, there needs to be a better balance than there currently is right now. So, with that, is there a motion?
What do you think, Rupert?
I'm sorry.
So as the report states,
Oh.
that this has been before this board 4, 5, 6 times. So the staff did not insert any, we didn't insert our own thoughts. So whichever way the board is inclined to go, you're going to want to talk about
Fine.
comprehensive plan and purposes of zoning.
Thank you, Jim. And before we look for a motion, Rupert had made a suggestion earlier this evening that that in our recommendation to the council, no matter which way this goes, that the language be, they consider modifying the language to include the word legal bedrooms. Does anyone have an objection to that?
I think that's a great recommendation.
Okay. So, well, the motion before us is on the recommendation of the council. And Rupert, you have a motion?
So I have a motion to not adopt the resolution, the revision to the student occupancy ordinance. I find it's not consistent with the comprehensive plan. The change proposed, the preparation of the comprehensive plan that Doc talked about, all three areas of the community outreach identified student housing as a problem. And it was such a predominant issue that the second public involvement workshop, the question about housing and neighborhood issues was framed in a way that assumed student issues were a concern. It asked participants, besides concerns over students, what are the neighborhood issues? Guiding principle number 2, enhancing the year-round community. Policy H 1.2, reducing the impact of student renters on the quality of life in local neighborhoods. Increasing permitted occupancy from 3 to 5 students is just the opposite of that. Land use policy 2.8, maintain and enhance community character by pursuing development of secondary activities outside the peer. And point G there is evaluate zoning strategy that can help to maintain neighborhood character townwide. The 3-student ordinance was adopted to help maintain neighborhood character. Changing the standard to 5 reduces the effectiveness of the zoning provision. H 1.3, ensure seasonal rentals do not unduly strain public services. Increasing student density from 3 to 5 in a house increases demand on wastewater treatment at a time when the system's over capacity. Policy H 4.1, encourage year-round rentals through programmatic regulatory approaches to build a stable year-round population. Increasing student occupancy from 3 to 5 increases financial incentive for renting students instead of year-round. This is contrary to the policy, and I think consistency with zoning, retaining 3-student occupancy limits, promotes public health, safety, and welfare. Changing the standard to 5 reduces those benefits. Providing for orderly growth and development, which recognizes the ability and capacity of existing and planned public facilities. As we've talked about, the wastewater systems are already beyond capacity. Having regulation that limits 3 students helps manage capacity, and changing this to 5 will increase demand on the overtaxed systems. And providing for control, protection, abatement of noise pollution. 3-student ordinance was adopted in part to manage noise in neighborhoods. Changing the student occupancy is likely to increase noise in areas with more students. And promoting implementation of the comprehensive plan, as we already discussed. Changing the zoning from 3 to 5 will be counter to provisions in the comprehensive plan. And I think
So that's your motion?
that's my motion.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Sure. I got a couple of things. One point you made was about the infrastructure being over capacity. We've said this in previous meetings. We had the sewer proposal here. They identified that we are over capacity during the summer months, not during the winter. And we're not enforcing the 5-student now. We're not in fact over capacity during the school year. So I don't think that's accurate. 3 to 5, going up to 5, as I disagree with you that it incentivizes student renting. I think that it consolidates the student rental population into less housing which opens up more housing for year-round rentals, especially the 3 bedrooms and the 2 bedrooms. So I disagree with you there, and that's all I got for you. Just a couple of notes.
You look like you might want to say something, Jim.
Steve read my notes. I was looking at policy H1.3, the seasonal rentals don't put an undue strain on public services, and my note was that the student impact of the water sewer is greatest at a time that our demand is lowest. We don't have water bans in the winter. I think that policy H1.4, ensuring that rental properties meet local and state housing codes to maintain health safety. But I think in that we also have to recognize, as you said, that this organically became a housing source. I think we have to recognize that, the down the line, as many of us once were, that number is still going to exist. And by spreading them out into more houses, we may lessen intensity on a single house, but we're still going to have the same amount of people. That 5% of unfulfilled rental opportunities is going to go to 0, and that's going to put more strain on the houses that people are currently renting year-round that may be more affordable, and it's going to push the rentals out of what's been historically the rental communities or the closer to the beach communities, and it's going to push them into the neighborhoods that historically didn't have student rentals. I think that the comp plan also talks about a diversity of community in several places, and I think that the students are an important part of the diversity. As Mr. Patrick said, I've seen the same type of interaction in my neighborhood. Harbor Island is basically a retirement community. I walk around and at almost 60, I'm one of the kids on the island. Everyone is older and retired, if they aren't seasonal, and I think that having that intermediate youth that aren't the families that moved in with school-age kids is something that brings a dynamic to a neighborhood, so I hate to just discount it. So, and I also think that there's something very important about consistency. Now, if there's a difference or lack of teeth in the state law, perhaps having our own, but having the two somewhat mirror and complement each other, I think has a legal benefit being at the 5, because one law can reflect back on the other. And I do agree with Doc's point that as we get down and we talk about on the bottom of H1.4, consider the development of a code enforcement task force. I like Bob's idea of the second offense, we confiscate the house. I think that
I wonder what the ACLU would say about that.
well, I said I didn't know if we're going to put it in a motion, but I like it. I think that enforcement is a difficult thing, but I think that penalties have to have enough teeth in them to actually sway behavior. And I think bad behavior can come from any group, and I just, respectfully hearing the counselors, I believe what she's saying is completely truthful. The courts don't recognize students as a protected class, but there was a time that many other currently protected classes weren't recognized. So.
Okay. Did you want to add anything, Doug? Rupert, did you want anything further?
Just to respond to a couple of points, the infrastructure, I don't think water's an issue off-season, I agree with you, but I think we've been hearing that the wastewater treatment plant's still having troubles, and we're well off-season, so.
Both of them.
Yeah, so I think that is an issue, and nobody's saying no students. I think the smaller houses have had lots of students in them, and what's happened is the students have moved into neighborhoods where there weren't students, and that's because investors were buying larger houses and renting to their students. So it's a change from the cultural tradition of the town.
I'll just, I guess, maybe offer two things in conclusion from my vantage point. One is, I don't know that, I understand the argument, Steve, in terms of, and Jim, in terms of pushing things out in terms of more houses. I think, if I understand what little I understand of real estate is those people who purchase houses assuming that they could rent to 4, 5, or 6 students and penciled out their pro formas based on the income that's driven from that, are essentially unable to do that. It's going to either cause them to make a decision to rent long-term, or they're going to have to sell in the market, one or the other. And whether that will have, what impact that will have on the market prices that we see and affordability, I think is to be determined then. On the issue of enforcement, I would say that while most people who get regulated by it won't like it, you will probably get 80% compliance out of the box simply because it's a law, and people follow the law. I think that's what we saw when the three student ordinance was in effect here. There will be any number of people that will say, for whatever reasons, we're going to kind of skirt it or go around it, and that's where the enforcement's going to have to be focused. Enforcement has always been by complaint, and it's not going. I don't think that's going to change either. So, but I think most people, when you tell them this is what the law is, this is what's required under the law, most people follow the law.
Can I just respond to the?
Sure.
The binary you just laid out, that people will either rent year-round, which they'll make less money,
Right.
or they'll sell the house,
Right.
right? You're neglecting the third option, which is what we saw actually happen when they enforced this. The rent per bedroom went up. The rent per bedroom went up in the winter, they continued to make money in the summer, and year-round houses that rent for less started to look and called the brokers in town and said, maybe now my 3-bedroom or my 2-bedroom house should go seasonal, because I'll make more money because the rent per bedroom just went up.
That's
the third
like I
option,
said,
and I think that's what we saw actually happen, if you remember back then. I don't know if you, my family had rentals, so I can tell you the rent went up.
I have no reason to disbelieve that.
Yeah.
I have antidote, but not Dave.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Of course,
So,
me
I'm not
too.
gonna- Right, and I'm not gonna rely on that. That said, it's interesting to me, again, I go back to where I started. It's interesting to me that Narragansett, 18.2% of the people in Narragansett in 2020 fell under the poverty line, right?
Sure.
And so, and then basically to say, look, we're gonna raise the rent, and then think about the kind of the dynamics that allow that to happen. It's something that I think there's a need for an intervention, and I'm looking for whatever levers are there.
Sure, but without price control,
No, I'm not
I
saying.
mean, that's what happens.
No,
The rents go up.
No, what?
Their parents don't care, those New Jersey kids, their parents don't care, they pay another
In a perfect
few $100.
In a perfect world, if the University of Rhode Island's own research is correct, that they're losing kids that they want to have because they don't have housing near campus, and if they built 2,500 to 3,000 to 3,500 beds on campus, and they were able to fill those beds from people who are disproportionately currently living in Narragansett, what impact would that have on market prices here? It would be substantially. People have to think a little differently than they think.
I agree, but we can't do anything about it.
Well, no.
The University of Rhode Island.
You can't
I think
do-
they should put a bar on campus. I said that the last time this came up, that would increase demand up there. But, yeah, I can't make them.
Okay, so there is, unless there's anything else that people want to add, a motion on the table from Rupert. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
3-2 in favor. Rupert, to respond to Jill's reminder, Jill, you would like to see the information that Rupert was using?
Yeah, that would be great if I could get a
And do you
copy.
wanna
At some point, Rupert, yeah.
Yeah, let's go to.
And in your report, are you, in addition to reporting the motion, are you going to report the counter argument?
Yes, well, the same as I did last time.
So if you guys have kind of citing both comp plan and purposes of zoning, to provide that information to Jill beyond what she has right now.
If you have it written down, that would be great, then I don't have to listen to the audio again.
Okay?
I have my notes in the book.
Okay.
Shopping like I don't. You didn't look at me, Jim, I don't.
You only said two things, Steve, I got it.
This one I
There you go.
So, Mr. Chairman, I just want to remind you, the deadline for this report is the 29th, so I'd like to start working on this, so the sooner you can get it to me, if you've got something, Mr. Grundy, I can try to expedite it.
And there is not a need for us to, excuse me, so we're not done. There's not a need for this group to come back and review the report again.
That's up to you. If you do, you're going to want to schedule that special meeting before the 29th. Otherwise, I'm going to draft it and give it to you to review.
Everybody's confident with your ability to do that, Jim?
I am.
Okay, here we go. Okay, moving on, on to old business. Item E1, zoning ordinance, proposed zoning ordinance amendment, section 9.1, parent 2, non-conforming uses and structures. Martino is the applicant, and Mr. McGreen is the attorney representing the applicant. So, Jack, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I had a discussion after our last meeting. We had a productive discussion, I think, last time, and we did make several, not so much changes, but we moved the language around to make it more cohesive. We broke it up into a couple of sections. And I was just wondering if you've had a chance to look at that at all.
I have. I think my colleagues had the same book I had. I can't assure you that they've looked at it. So, but I'll start on this one. Let me just. We'll turn about too much. Go ahead, Rupert.
So what's up there, I think, is different than what's in the.
Different what we have in front of us.
No.
This is in the
It's different what I have.
different house.
So, this is just like summarized. Okay, just.
So 9.12.
This is what I got.
Is there another slide there, Jack, beyond that?
This is our slide.
It should be a total of it's actually two pages.
If I could clarify, this is a presentation staff put together.
Hold on for 1 second.
Just of the
Amanda,
updated changes.
Amanda, hold on for 1
Oh,
second.
sorry.
Heidi,
Yes, sir.
just so we're all get on the same page, I want Amanda to describe what it is that she did with this so we can all follow along.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
I just combed through the updated changes that Jack has proposed that is in front of you, and I just consolidated it, so you're not gonna see the entire text, you're just gonna see the text that's been changed.
So Steve just pointed out, so for example, you went, what's in our book, starting at 9.1, those paragraphs 1 and 2 are not here, and you basically pick it up from the last paragraph.
Yeah, so if you
Paragraph
go.
2, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you go down
Yep.
to section 2, I've just started from that point where, I guess the last paragraph to your points,
Yep.
Tom.
Okay, we all on the same page, so to speak? Okay. Jack has asked if anyone has feedback before he speaks. Rupert, were you going to say something?
So what I have in my book, I'm not sure that it's the same as that. I find it convoluted, and in drafting stuff that my law professors would have really downgraded me for. And I just feel like we need a subcommittee to sit down and look at this and just work through it. That's my take.
Well, I'm here to try and work through it right now, so,
Well,
that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, generally speaking, it's like 16 words that we're adding. What I did try and do is clean up the existing statute, because use and by dimension was all kind of mushed together. So I broke it up. I gave you a section 9.1. I modified section 9. I called it non-conforming. I crossed out uses and structures, non-conforming structures and land by use and by dimension. So I tried to separate it to keep those two issues separate, because you have two things going on here. You have land by use, and then you have the dimensional issue. So my person was more focused on the dimensional issue. And then there are other people, and I think Matt was here, he was focused on the land by use, and I think Steve Marcello was also, that was here last time, was also focused by land by use. So we tried to separate it, to clean it up, and basically we're just adding the language that, so you'll see some of the cross outs. It's not that we crossed out the language, we just crossed it out in section 9.1, and we moved it to section 9.2 to make it clear that that dimensional language, that language in number 3 that used to be in section 9.1, we just moved it down to section 9.2 and made it a number 1. Other than that, we're just saying that if somebody voluntarily raises or demolishes a structure on a legal non-conforming use, just like we've done, and this board's recommended positively over the last 20, 25 years, that somebody has the right to come in here and ask for dimensional relief. Nothing more, nothing less. And the example I gave last time, which kind of really brings it to the forefront, is that if you have an existing legal non-conforming lot here, that's vacant land, and then you have a house right here that wants to be raised, same size, everything, this person can come in and ask for the dimensional relief, but the person that has the house that wants to knock it down because it's just about to fall down can't ask for the dimensional relief. To me, I think that just makes it clear that not doing this makes no sense at all. And we've been doing it for the last 20 years. It's just that because for some reason the Supreme Court has jumped on that word shall. And now they said if you have a word shall in your ordinance, you can't use the dimensional relief standard within your ordinance to ask for the relief. Shall makes it's mandatory, and you can't ask for the relief. So as we were sitting here, I was going through the ordinance. I just Googled the word shall, and shall is all over the place in this ordinance. So just like I think John Gary got caught on the thing, I think it's I can make the argument against that. I think it's distinguishable, but I'm not here to argue John's point. I got my hands full. But that word shall, it seems like the court in the last couple, they focus on this word shall, and if you see that word shall in the ordinance, even though the word it's throughout the entire ordinance, the courts are now saying it's mandatory. So that's why we're throwing this language in here, saying even though we have this section, a person can still come in and ask for the dimensional relief. It's really, we're just codifying what we've been doing for the last 20 years. I'm not sure, I mean, those words, the words that we're inserting includes the right to seek dimensional variances, modifications, special use permits, and/or staff approvals. That's what we're adding. I'm not sure if we had formed a subcommittee and kicked this thing around for another 3 or 4 months.
I'm not suggesting, I agree with your intent. At least, I think I agree with your intent. But I think, I mean, last night at town council meeting, there was serious discussion by Mr. Durkin and others that, ordinance is so confusing to read. And I think when we read this the first time, there's language right now in section 9.1, subsection 2, non-conforming use of building, that then talks about if a non-conforming building or structure is voluntarily demolished without receiving a permit. So that's not use. So I think this needs to be cleaned up.
What section is?
So section
Page
9.
Page 1, Jack.
9.1, the second paren underneath it.
Number 2, non-conforming use.
Yep. So
building
you look at the third block of text there. If a non-conforming building or structure is voluntary, that's not use. That's again building and structure.
But
And it's under the use section. So I think that I think the section you added was about buildings and structure. So Why do
No,
we
that's
have?
existing, that was there already, I didn't have that.
No, I understand that, that's what I'm saying, I think this whole thing needs to be cleaned up so it's less confusing.
I would agree with that the whole thing needs to be cleaned up, but I think we've got, because of a single court decision, that I agree with our solicitor was.
She.
That was the word.
That's a technical term.
I think we have a lot of people that are being deprived good use of their property, and that the correction of the entire ordinance is probably something that will take years.
No, not
to
the entire
accomplish.
ordinance, this piece we're writing.
I think that there's implications to the whole ordinance and to all of the development standards, so it's a larger look, and I don't think that staff or we would be able to accomplish this in any short time. This is a look at our entire development standard in relationship to these new, because the point I brought up with the solicitor for the very first item on our agenda has implications across almost everything we do town-wide. I think we have to look at this completely as a complete rewrite, but this is an immediate fix to a very significant problem. And I think that the wording is very simple. I don't mean that to be critical. I think it clarifies and allows you to do something that's been a standard practice, as was said for 20 years. I only had one question on one word, and I don't know if it's just in 9.21.
9.21, okay.
There's a strikeout, and it says in single-family residential zones, and then the word prior is in there, prior to a permit may be issued. I just don't know,
I think I'll have Matt come up, and Matt, wasn't that your suggested change?
I just didn't know about the word prior, if that
Yeah.
belonged there, or how it fit, the sentence didn't make
It's right there.
sense.
Yeah, I'm looking at that now.
I just thought if that word was left from something else, or...
I think it should read a permit. I don't know if we need prior, a permit may be issued. This was the result of a number of
Yeah,
revisions
that's why,
and
just like
edits.
that word prior, I didn't know what prior meant in that context.
It may have been a carryover from before. I know one of the important changes that we wanted, my dad's client had wanted was for prior approvals, prior staff approvals. That may just be carryover. My addition was that it also applies to commercial structures. Demo and rebuilding of structures in commercial zones that may not otherwise conform to the dimensional regulations. The prior iteration of this was limited to single-family, residences and dwellings, so I think that language is
Might just
probably
strike
not
that one
necessarily
word prior, because the A was capitalized anyways.
Yeah, it looks like just the line didn't make it through that word. Yeah. There's a period there, yeah, is that line?
Thank you. Okay, Rupert, you want, beyond saying we need some time to rewrite, you have specific questions with respect to...
Oh, so I caught that typo too. And on the one I have in the book, section 9.21, there's redundant language in the copy. The copy I have, it has no permit shall be issued that will be result in increase of any such dimensional nonconformity unless the owner/applicant obtains a dimensional variance, modification, special use permit, or staff approval as applicable. And then it has the same language at the end of that block. And it may be just the way it printed.
I don't have that.
Okay.
I have it in mind, but I think
it's crossed out.
It's not on mine.
No, it's not crossed out on mine either, Jack. It's on the following page at the top. Right here.
So it goes right, this right here.
That's redundant with stuff in the beginning of the paragraph.
Yes, if you turn the page.
Yep.
Yeah, see, it's got it here again, at the end of that paragraph, and it says it at the beginning of that same paragraph.
No permit shall be.
Good catch.
Well, that's why I feel.
I think.
That's why I'd like to look at it. like a couple of us that sit down and look at it, maybe with legal, have you had a chance to review it?
I have, but textually, it's not a Rembrandt.
And have we gotten feedback from?
No.
Maybe
Maybe on it?
mildly redundant, but it's not fatal.
No, certainly.
See, I have this as a cross out on that.
Oh, okay.
That's a cross out, that was a cross out.
There you go, Rupert.
Okay, it's not on mine. The
Yeah,
second
that-
part's a cross out?
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
a
that's-
cross out, starting with the word unless, that was a cross out.
Okay, so,
I used to work for the Department of Redundancy Department.
so,
Yeah,
I'm
just,
not clear,
so mine has a cross out there.
Okay,
Yeah.
mine didn't.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the older one, I think.
so what do we have in front of us?
All right, so Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
so I'm completely stupefied at how we have two versions of the same document when Mr. McGreen only sent it to us once, so there's that. Staff has not had an opportunity to review this. I did tell Mr. McGreen that this morning. Immediately upon receipt, I sent it to the building inspector and asked him to discuss with me. I haven't heard back. In all fairness, it's only been 2 working days since that's occurred. So staff hasn't had the opportunity to really take a deep dive. In a super quick look, I can tell you that there's some concern about the shall language again, and how when the shall comes before the predicate, then it negates the predicate, so the sentence could be switched, right? There's a couple of those, and all of the relief hasn't been flagged. So I do appreciate that, but there are things like, there's other relief in the ordinance, and they're different, right? So it's not a variance, it's not a special use permit, it's not a modification, it's not a staff review. There are certain areas in the ordinance that say zoning board approval. Zoning board approval is needed. You have to do this, and if you can't do this, then the zoning board will approve something less than this, and you have to make the case for it. And it's just zoning board approval. Case in point, Mr. Landry, is the buffer requirement between residential and non-residential. So I don't know if this captures that.
So you're suggesting that if it's a section unrelated to this section that requires a buffer, and it uses the word shall, then we need to include the word buffer in here?
No, I'm not, no, 2 different things. 2 different things. The first thing is you include that caveat, which unless the applicant applies for and receives the 4 types of relief that you've identified.
Right.
There's an additional type of relief, I don't know if it needs to be in there, it's a question, I haven't talked to the building official yet, which is that zoning board approval relief, which is you have to put in a certain buffer. I think it's 10 feet with arborvitae's, 15-foot center spacing or something like that, evergreens and center space. Or if you can't do that, some other berm or something will be acceptable upon zoning board approval.
Right.
That's one. The second.
So let me just stop you there. So
Yep.
if you say upon zoning board approval, so that gives the zoning board the right to approve that. I don't think we would have to.
No, so we have historically in the town, we have identified that as relief because the applicant comes in and asks for something other than what's in the ordinance, and so we identify that. It's a question,
Right.
Jack, I don't know the answer.
Right.
Then the first point I made, which is the shall, so it's not up on this screen, but it's twice. It's at the bottom of 9.12.
Yeah.
And then at the top of,
Where's the word, just point the first shall out to me?
if a non-conforming building or structure is voluntarily demolished without receiving a permit for its reconstruction, it shall not be rebuilt in subject to non-conformity, which includes the right to seek. So I understand the intent, which is what I wrote in my report. I'm not sure if the language meets the intent. You could change the shall to may, and then instead of which, that, or, and I'll leave it to legal minds, yourself and Bob here, to Mr. Craven to concur or tell me I'm wrong.
So,
Mr. Chairman, I go back to my proposal. I don't know if we could have a meeting
Well, let me just go
Friday,
through
Monday.
If we could just go through the times, maybe we can get this all done and still try and stay within the schedule I hope to get my clients.
Yeah.
So we have the town council meetings 2-2. So I'm gonna have to go up there with something, and they're gonna refer it back down to you again. So, and I've already said that I'd waive the timing on that, so it's not being shoved down your throat, right? So then the next planning board meeting would be 2/18. Do you think it's possible between now and February 18th to knock this thing out?
I think we could do it Friday or Monday if
Okay, then
you're Jill.
I have no
and
problem, then that's
Jim,
fine.
you could
I
take
just
it.
wanted to hopefully be able to get it back on the planning board so they can refer it back to the town council so I can get on that March 2nd meeting for a first reading and then on the March 16th for a second reading. That's my goal.
Does,
Hold on, Jill. You cringed.
I did. But I understand the
explain.
intent, and whatever the council decides on Jack in notification, by all means. I did speak with the town clerk today on this whole matter of how this works. And some of it is still unclear, but I don't have to have, if you're going to submit an attachment, a revised, I will attach it for the rescheduling, which will be on the 2nd. And you'll have that, you can, if the,
And they'll refer that back to the planning board,
and, yes.
right? And it's gonna be open, so,
Well,
you know.
somehow they'll do that,
Right,
yes.
so we're not going to have to re-advertise because it's done in open session, and even that advertisement says we have the right to make changes. This may not be the complete thing, so we're not gonna have to re-advertise,
I,
Correct.
right? So if we don't
Will
have to
not.
re-advertise,
that's not,
because that would just put it out another 3 months if we had to do another re-advertising, but it's open meeting.
so Jack, so if it did get rescheduled with a revised language and it was considered substantive enough to re-advertise, it could still be advertised for either the 2nd or the 16th.
What I'm saying is, even if it's substantial, once the meeting's open, it can just get, it doesn't have to be re-advertised.
As long as it's the same subject matter.
Yes, I don't think it, because it says right in the initial advertisement that we have the right, this may not be the final, we have the right to make substantial changes, but if it's open and we make it, then it can just get referred back to the planning board without having to go through that whole process of re-advertising.
So when does this have to, when would it have to be sent? When would it have to be in the preparation of the council's package for the 2nd? When do they have to have it by?
I have to post it by Thursday morning.
This upcoming Thursday morning?
No, not tomorrow, next
No.
week.
Next week. So if Jack and Rupert, and I guess I heard you, I heard Rupert and Jim, and Bob, and you,
And Wayne,
and Wayne, well, yeah, I can't, none of us here can commit for Wayne, but I
No.
think if I commit the 5 of you, and if I make a phone call, hopefully he'll be able to do this,
you should get the invite.
right? So.
I can set up a Zoom call, I mean, if no one's opposed to a Zoom call, then.
You wanna do it by Zoom or in person?
I feel better in person, just,
Okay.
All right, so let's do that.
I mean, you're local, right? I mean, Jim's local.
Wayne's local. The only one that had to travel a little bit is Bob.
Oh, no, I'll be down here.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there we go.
Want me to
So-
do those, or we?
We'll get it ironed out easily.
So I'll leave it to the, 5 of you to find a time that's convenient, that meets the timeline that Jill, that it allows Jill to be able to put something in the board pack, in the council's packet by next Thursday morning. Okay? And you have given us
Yes.
a waiver.
Yes.
Do we need a waiver, do we need something other than Jack saying he's giving us a waiver?
Do we need to know how much time Jack's gonna give us? Are you giving us until, you gotta give us until after the 18th?
I charge by the day, how much time do you want?
So your deadline for us is tomorrow.
Well, can we just use this as the placeholder? And then, Because I think this is good enough so that if it got sent back down to the board, anything, it wouldn't be considered another I don't think we're gonna substantially change this from where we are right now.
The concern for me, Jack, is that this board hasn't given a recommendation in the requisite 45-day
Right, so I'm
timeline.
waiving that.
Right, I'm asking you, when you're waiving it
For how
until,
long?
How long? We need
Right.
a date.
so the next meeting that this board needs to discuss is February 18th.
February 18th, right.
So I'm gonna need a few days after that.
The 20th or 21st,
How many
or
days?
whatever the next business
How many-
day.
No,
Is he scheduling your appointments for you?
I guess he is.
Well, it's the 18th, it's the Wednesday.
We have
so it'll be the
No,
20th.
Let me get my,
It'll be the
let's just take a quick look. So, that's the 18th. Oh,
February 18th is a Wednesday.
so,
Yeah, so Jack, it's not
to the
going
Monday,
until,
does it make any difference? I mean, what's the difference? Does-
it gives me the time
No, I'm
to
just
write
talking-
it and have it reviewed.
Right, so, what do you want? Tell me, I don't, as long as I can stay on that track for that March 2nd
Want to go to the end of the month?
town council meeting.
No, understood, so you have to have it posted for that, so let me just
Yeah,
pull
so-
up a schedule real quick.
Make it that date.
No, understood, yeah, and it could be ready, for the March meeting.
Yeah, so
Um,
February 28th.
It'd be February 25th, so you could post it on the 26th for the council meeting?
That would be great, February 25th.
February 25th?
Yep.
Okay.
So,
There you go, you have a waiver till the 25th at midnight.
Don't do that, I could be.
so,
Yeah.
Patty, would you be sure that gets reflected in the minutes, please?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. McGreen?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So how do we schedule this date for us? Are you gonna send out a calendar or Jill?
Maybe
Yeah, I-
after the meeting, we could talk with Jill and then she could,
Yep,
I'm pretty flexible. so.
Me too.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, is there a motion to continue to a date of this agenda item
I
to
don't think-
February 18th?
I don't know that we need to do that.
Do we need to do that? I
I
don't
don't
know.
think we do.
Huh?
I don't think
No,
we
I
do.
think they want us to move to send this to the town council with the changes we made tonight. Taken out prior to, is that correct, Jack?
No, we're gonna have
No?
to, we'll make,
Okay.
we're gonna try and clean the thing up as best we can.
Right.
Then we're gonna send it up, asking the town to send it back to us, right? But at that point, hopefully it's all done, so it's just academic at that point in time, right?
Okay. Makes sense to me.
So
Yeah.
Jill,
Yes.
just so I
Thank you.
understand,
Thanks.
would we be, when we meet, would Rupert and I constitute a subcommittee with a recommendation that goes to the council, and the second be the recommendation of the subcommittee, not the recommendation of the full board?
yeah, I don't even know if
Because
it would
then
be
if
the
we make a
recommendation, I don't even think it
modification-
would be a recommendation at that point, you're just helping Jack draft it, because it's
Okay.
gonna come back
It's
to the
gonna
full
come back
board.
to the full board.
I would defer to legal, but that never occurred to me that it would be
Right.
any kind of subcommittee recommendation, you're just
Okay.
trying to work the details out with Mr. McGreen, and he's so eloquently offered to meet with you to do that, so.
Okay? Thanks, Jack.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good.
Steve,
Good question.
Oh,
I
Steve?
just have one question, thank you. I just want to ask, as the ordinance stands right now, okay, now that if someone comes in with an unconforming use, wants to tear it down, they have to build it up basically exactly the way it was. So what happens to,
No, it's not correct.
let me ask the attorney, because I asked this last time, I know. Why was the town,
Steve,
I had
ask the question through me, and we'll
Okay,
get it to
I
Bob.
had two houses across the street from me, both of them were non-conforming uses. Both of them were knocked down. One was a two-bedroom cottage, one was a three-bedroom cottage. They became an eight-bedroom structure, knocked it down, and then the other one became a seven. If this ordinance was being applied correctly, wouldn't those rules of the same footprint and the same particular structure adhere?
Wouldn't they have applied, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, why wasn't the town applying this wording to every one of these that was a non-conforming use? It was knocked down and they were coming in with a variance, which was not correct.
Right.
So every one of these that was knocked down, I think we got bigger problems than trying to fix it right now. We got a lot of problems that houses were knocked down that never should have been allowed to be knocked down. That's a big issue. And it's a huge
But I'm not
issue
sure
with
what
me.
the-
I'm not
But I'm
blaming
not, I'm not sure what the remedy for that is, Steve, for tonight. I'm not sure how you would remedy that. I'll ask some combination of Bob and or Jill to respond to Mr. Ferrandi's question.
My understanding is you gave the hypothetical. If they came in today, what would happen, what law would apply? My understanding is they're holding these applications.
Now,
So
what
that there's a
Steve-
clarification.
No, what Steve is saying is historically, this ordinance has been on the books as it's been. And there have been houses that have essentially been knocked down,
Correct.
restructured. He's basically asking, A, how did that happen? If that's in fact an accurate representation, A, is that one? And two, how did it happen? And three, I think, is there a remedy for something that's happened in the way that he's described?
There's a remedy to anything, but I'm not sure that you could rebuild a house you knocked down. What?
No. You would knock down the house that had been rebuilt, that had been granted a variance. In other words,
It hadn't been.
the house had been knocked down.
Yep.
Variance on the non-conforming use had been, on the non-conforming structure had been granted.
Yep.
House rebuilt according to that.
Yep.
It's there now, it's been there for 3, 4, 5 years or whatever. In the instances of the two houses he's talking about, they've been there for 3, 4, 5 years now, maybe longer.
That would end up in front of Judge
That would
Lanfear.
be a lawsuit, wouldn't it?
It would be a lawsuit.
Right, okay.
Who the moving party and who would have standing is the question.
Okay. And Jill, just as a practical matter, do you have a response on this?
The two houses that Mr. Ferrandi's,
No, just in a more, in a general way.
no.
No. Okay. Do you have a response? You have a response to the two houses that he specifically raised?
They do. They didn't need relief.
They did not need relief
No.
from the non-conforming. What he's asking about is the non-conforming.
I'm not sure which nonconformity he's referring to, but neither one of those dwellings needed any relief.
Okay.
I don't know if Mr. Ferrandi's referring to, I know one of them was over 10,000 square feet, I think it's 11,000, I can't remember the size of the other lot off the top of my head. But both structures, as I recall, did not need any relief. I know they didn't need any relief because they were on our radar.
I understand that, but why wasn't the town going strictly by the law like it should have, let's say, and said if it was voluntarily demolished, it would have to be reconstructed, provided as the same? Why wasn't, some of them were knocked down and that, more than some of them.
Tom, wasn't the key difference that the judge's ruling basically changed the rules? Is that?
I don't think they should have ever been heard. It was a non-conforming use. It says if it's demolished, it has to be, shall not be built except in conformity with all the provisions of the ordinance as it was located, which means that it had to be built back the way it was. So how did we go from not doing
Steve,
all that as opposed to knocking it down, just putting something that's in conformance? It should have stayed on the same footprint.
Steve, I'm not sure how to answer your question.
I mean,
I can give one stab. I'll give a quick stab.
Or do you want to be recognized?
Uh,
As a citizen? you wanna be
Yes.
recognized?
I just want to answer the question.
No,
though.
I'm sorry. Do you want to yield, Steve? If you don't want to yield.
No, I mean, if you want, what I want to say is, what I've heard it was that reasons why they came up, because there's items in the comp plan that said, okay, maybe growth is better, some of the knockdowns maybe are needed and all of that, but that shouldn't have been the reason why they went forward. Taking the strict evidence of the law, and like Dr. O'Neill said about the enforcement, this is the problem with some of the enforcement. It's never enforced. People take it for granted. It becomes tradition, and that's what we have. Every one of these knockdowns never goes back to what this ordinance said. Now, the judge proved it all right, and we should have been maybe looking into it a little more, and that never happened over a long time. Now, I'm not saying I want to go back and look at every knockdown in the last 10 years, but somebody may want to do that and find out if they were wrong and why the town was doing this, when they shouldn't have been. That's all I'm getting.
Okay, and I guess, Steve,
And I realize maybe the staff doesn't want to explain, I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, but, we did a lot of things by tradition here that maybe weren't the right way.
I'd love to.
If there's an explanation, there's an explanation. I get it.
Steve, do you want to say something?
I would love to.
Go ahead.
All right, so you have a fundamental misconception of the ordinance that the judge talked about here. It doesn't say when you voluntarily knock down a structure, you have to rebuild that structure as it was. What it says is, a new structure must be built in strict conformance with the zoning code. That doesn't mean it has to be the same building. Many buildings that are getting knocked down are not in strict conformance with the zoning code. So they, in fact, cannot be rebuilt exactly as they stood. Okay? The ones across the street from you were built in strict conformance to the zoning code. They did not require a variance or a special use permit. It's actually why they put a moratorium on building in the town. That's why we came up with the 4-bedroom special use permit. So, I understand why you think that, but that's not what the ordinance said.
But doesn't this ordinance say that they would like to see the structure remain as is and rebuilt as is?
No. It says that
That's
if you're gonna
what you
you can read it. It says that it has to be built in strict conformance with the zoning code. Not with the footprint, not with what was existing, with the zoning code.
But it also,
It's different.
and what they're looking for is if it needs dimensional relief, there's where the issue comes in.
Yes, exactly, which they didn't.
So, but what I'm saying is if you built it back the way it was, you could leave the non-conforming use. I think that was what it was intended for, and just rebuild that.
You couldn't.
You couldn't take
You
that.
couldn't if the structure was a non-conforming structure. You're conflating structure and use. It's another thing, but the structure itself, if it was non-conforming dimensionally, in order to rebuild it as it stood, you would necessitate a variance from the zoning code, which the judge has said we can't grant. So we, in fact, like Jack's client, we could not give them the variance to even rebuild the house as it exists today,
I'd rather hear
if they
from
were to
staff.
knock it
If
down.
that's the truth, I'd rather hear from the legal advice.
Bob, is what I just said correct?
100%.
Thank you. Jack, you want to weigh in? Sorry.
Jack, no.
Sorry.
No,
Mr. Chairman.
we're gonna cut it there.
Fair enough.
Fine.
Steve?
He said his piece, I said my piece.
Steve?
I'm fine.
I'm gonna make a suggestion.
I'm not gonna have.
Mr.
people
McGreen
be
has offered to-
while I'm up here.
I didn't mean to be rude, I'm very sorry, I was just trying to explain the difference and what the code says.
Steve,
Let him say it, I'll sit here.
no, Steve, Mr. McGreen has offered to provide his view on this thing. My suggestion would be, rather than take the board's continuing time on this, step outside and have that conversation if you'd like. If you'd like. Okay. On to the next item. Okay, approval of minutes. It's my understanding that we received a copy of one of the...
The October minutes, yes.
October by email today. I have not had a chance to review them. I don't know if anyone else may have.
I'll be recusing anyway, so.
Okay. My recommendation would be that we hold these meetings, we hold these minutes and take them all at the next meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
We're on to planning, reports and updates from the staff and the council. Planning board liaison updates. Who's got coastal access now?
So I've attended a meeting and I don't really have a good update to prepare. I'm still getting immersed in what they're working on, but there was an agenda item on the council last night to look at parking for fishermen.
And surfers too.
It was,
Town residents, surfers and fishermen.
Yes.
I stayed a little bit there.
anyhow, I believe it was deferred,
Right.
so.
Excuse me.
Go
Can I
ahead.
come? That's interesting, because where I live, Hazard, Newton Avenue, the majority of those cars are from Providence, they're not local.
Yeah.
And they stack up in the nice weather when the fishing's good.
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, land concern, Steve, on the land conservancy trust?
I actually missed the last meeting. My entire family's down with the flu. and I thought it was this week, so that's on me. I don't think that we had anything major to update everybody on. If Jill has anything she'd like to update you on, I'm sure she was there.
I was there.
All right.
No, there was some discussion about potential leases, and the land trust made a motion to recommend for a recommendation to the Historic District Commission and the Historic Preservation and Heritage Commission regarding the addition that has been right now partially constructed at Sunset Farm on the barn. That's it.
Okay. Legislative updates, I think, Ryan, this is you. Zoning ordinance and subdivision regs?
Yes. So, Mr. Chairman, I've provided most of you, and I handed it to you, but I think Stephen, Jim, you guys were either in conversation or weren't at your seats yet. There is a handout, maybe in the pocket. It's a couple pages. It's titled Bills Requiring Ordinance Changes. So these bills, which are now amendments or additions to existing statutes in Rhode Island laws, were effectively passed, and some were effective on their passage, and most had an effective date of January 1, 2026. So this is a breakdown of every bill that included changes to the statutes in the Rhode Island laws, and this breaks down where this is staff's interpretation of what these changes are and whether or not they require a change to our zoning ordinance. There's been some discussion with legal, both between Nick and Bob. Nick had provided that he had comment. I never received written comments, so I'm not sure what those are. I'm not sure if Bob does know what those are either. So I haven't seen those, so I'm not quite sure.
I'll make sure to get to you tomorrow.
Thank you. And I can go through these generally if the board wishes, but this is a synopsis of what staff believes are changes that will be needed to our existing zoning ordinance.
Rather than going through them in detail, is there one or two that you would like to highlight for the board right now?
Sure, that was my plan. So there are two bills that require some significant changes in my opinion, and that is the first one. The bill that H5794 BAA that has significant changes to a multitude of different statutes, mainly being that there is a change to the substandard lots of record and how those lots of record receive their dimensional requirements. There used to be a sliding scale based off of their difference in or the deficiency in lot size that has been changed and simplified to read similarly to it reads to what we are already implementing in the town, which is if the lot size is the same or within a recognized zone in town. So for instance, if you have 15,000 square feet and you're in an R20, you don't comply with the R20 lot size requirements, you would then be reviewed under the R10 requirements, so you would receive those modified dimensional regulations, but your lot coverage, your building and lot coverage, would be reduced by the deficiencies in lot size. So if you were 50% deficient, your lot coverage would increase by 50%. So that's one of the significant changes, and it also makes a significant change to modifications. It's mentioned twice here in the beginning and towards the end. So I'll just read from the first part where there's the changes to section 2.2. In modifications, it removes the language that specifically prohibited modifications from lot area or to lot area or for lot area, and it adds dimensional relief. So it's my interpretation that it is indicating any form of dimensional relief may be considered for approval via modification. And that is something that the subcommittee, myself, and Bob have been considering. There are also substantial changes to the general provisions permitted uses for adaptive reuse development from that bill. And then I will bring your attention to the second page. Did I miss one? Oh, it's at the bottom of the first page. My apologies, and it goes on to the second page. Bill 5797A. There is added definitions to Statute 452431 for co-living housing. I didn't provide this specific definition. My apologies to the rest of the board. I've been working with the subcommittee on it, so they have the bills. I will provide the all of the bills where these changes are referenced to via email tomorrow, so you are able to review them and look at those changes as well. So it adds those a definition for co-living housing, and then moving down to H579AAA. There are changes to the standard provisions where it now includes definitions and requirements for attached single-family dwellings, and it permits towns to construct attached single-family dwellings in designated zoning districts, and yeah, that is a general synopsis of some of the more significant changes that will be needed to occur to our zoning ordinance.
Thank you, Ryan. Questions? And just process-wise, subcommittee's been working through this. It will bring the proposed additions or changes here to the full board?
Yes, when we see fit, we will bring a drafted ordinance with the drafted language that the subcommittee and legal have both vetted, and it will come to the board for full discussion.
And then on to the town council?
Yes, and then that will be sent up to the town council for their review.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to give you, all the members of the board, some inside information of what all those numbers mean that are highlighted that are related to the House bill numbers.
Okay.
When you see a BAA bill, which is the bill 5794, it's halfway down the second page.
Yep.
That means that bill was amended at least 4 times and probably accepted as an amendment from the Senate as a condition to pass the bill on the Senate side, and it was all done sometime around 2 or 3 in the morning. So you can expect that there will be a sharp view of whether we hit it right would be appropriate. And I've mentioned this to staff. This is an opportunity when you got bills like this, controversial, going back and forth. Much of this was in my committee. It's blinding, and I'll give you some. I'll tell you at the end of my comments in a minute or two what my own viewpoint of this is. But it gives the town an opportunity to say, and staff to say, this isn't right. It doesn't work for us. This is the problem. And I can assure you that at 2 in the morning, we didn't know that. And we would be receptive to a bill to correct that this session, the sooner the better, so that it can relieve a problem before it ever really becomes something that we enforce. And there's an old expression that they talk about as it relates to legislation. Legislation's like hot dogs. If you ever knew how they made it, you wouldn't eat one.
Well, I don't intend to eat a statute either, so. Okay, Ryan, you want to give us an update on the subdivision regs?
I don't have an update for that, but before I do pass that on over to Jill, I will also mention there is a disclaimer or a note on the top of your document that though these changes aren't implemented or codified into our zoning ordinance as they exist today, the town is still implementing them as they are state law.
Okay. Jill, subdivision?
Yes. So we're gonna go back and look at the shall, right? Or in frontage anyway. I did crack it back open today. What I'd like to do, the subcommittee, so that's myself, Rupert, and Dr. O'Neill, had been working on it. We've done it in track changes, which is good for a subcommittee, but not good for your review. It needs to be in a different format for your review. So I'd like to turn it all over into the different format, and then go through. So I'm going through right now. There are a couple of questions that I'm trying to answer in the margins that either Rupert has written or I wrote in. Bob met with us one time. The questions that might have to go back to Bob for answers. But I intend to have at least a working draft. The committee can either see it one more time as a working draft, or I can bring it to this board as a working draft before we have the public hearing on it. And we can provide you with, I know the bills are now statute, but it's easier to use the bill to track the change than it is to try to find the change in the statute. So we can provide you the bills, at least from 2025, maybe even from 2024, that make those changes, if you want to see them as reference.
The statutory, these will capture the statutorily induced changes over what period of time?
So this board had made changes to the subdivision regulations in December of 2023, and then of course in June of 24 there were new changes, which the town had a working draft of. We had some highlights and underlines and just trying to, things where, just to get picked up, like where the administrative officer is the authorizing body as opposed to the planning board, and a couple of other things. So we had that working draft, which is the draft we used for the 2025 changes. So when the three of us were using it, you could see old, you could see the text amendments that were referencing 2024, text amendments of just Scribner's errors and things we just needed to change. And then we added in the 2025. So when this board receives it in its entirety, it will be all of those things, just in strikeout underline. Okay. Unless it's the board's pleasure to see it another way, but that it can get really convoluted. Whether it's a Scribner's error, a 24 change, or a 25 change.
Okay. Any other questions? Anyone's got? Thank you. I know you guys have been working diligently on this, and we all appreciate the work that you've been doing. There is in the packet, I did not get a chance to review it, there is a Superior Court decision that's being brought to our attention, Stuck Trust versus the Town of Narragansett Planning Board. Somebody want to give us a quick summary of what this is? I don't know if that's Bob or...
It's, Ken, it's the Twin Willows, and relief was granted by the town, and Judge Lanphier said he didn't have the power to grant the relief. It was beyond the scope of what your power was. So anecdotally, I would guess that Bill Shields was the original owner that I knew, was a friend of mine until the day he died, and it was a popular place, and he was a very influential guy in Narragansett, and maybe relief was granted because it was a good idea, it's a great place, it's popular, and Judge Lanphier, again, this was the case I was referring to earlier, he's saying, nope, you're not going to be able to grant any relief beyond the, in this instance, there was a limit on 25%. It was a non-conforming use. And he said, you can't do it, just cutting it off.
Was it a shall?
Well, what the ordinance was and how it was applied is the judge is looking at everything strictly. If it says 25, it doesn't mean 26. So that's what he's saying. And everything we look at should be looked at in that window, as long as he is the housing court of the Rhode Island Superior Court. Because he is.
Right.
Every decision is being decided by him.
And the land court or the housing court is a recent
creation of the legislature.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we asked for it and funded it, so I guess we kind of created it. And then Judge Gibney, who recently retired, created it, picked Judge Lanphier, and handed him. This is the good part. On day one, they didn't get 250 cases. There were 250 cases that were in corners of judges' chambers because they'd see it go, I don't want to deal with that, because these are not typical of a civil Superior Court case. they're kind of unique. So in order to move the calendar and create the brevity and the process of going through a subdivision or some kind of land use issue, if a case goes to court and it doesn't move and it's 2 years later, then nothing's happening to create housing. So the legislation and Judge Gibney said we're going to create a land court and we're going to move them in 90 days. So that's what's happening now.
Okay.
Can I add some color commentary?
Sure.
So, Doc knows, and I don't know if you were there, Jim, but the judge did a workshop for the planners retreat in November, and we learned that his wife's on the planning board in Cranston, I think. I asked him if they always agreed. She always agreed with his decisions.
Well.
Okay, so looks like the last item on the agenda is a confirmation that we have a quorum on the 18th of February.
That's not the last, you delayed the
Oh, I
discussion.
moved Dave, pardon moi.
I was gonna say you're not the last, but next to the last.
We'll do this one, we'll do this one anyway.
Okay.
So we're gonna confirm people's availability on the 18th. We got a quorum? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
We're good? Okay, Jill, annual report time. Do you want to do it
Sure.
tonight?
Yeah, you guys are busy. So the first couple pages are just what we do, what the department, what the staff does. For those of you who haven't seen it, so yep. So we welcomed Amanda this year, for 2025. That was very exciting. Super happy to have her. And there was one proposal for a comprehensive plan amendment, as you know, and that was withdrawn. There were several zoning amendments, so this board was real busy this year. We started off with the mixed-use ordinance, of which was requested by a former council member to put on to the council, and ultimately we ended up we workshopped that actually once or twice, once at least, with the town council, and ultimately we ended up sort of requesting them to deny it because there were too many loopholes in it. And the concern with that and the inclusionary zoning ordinance, which advisement from legal was to hold off on both of those until we see what the 2025 changes were. But that did not negate the fact that this board did a lot of work on that. And then we had, of course, the 14 amendments. So that was a whole series of dozens of changes, which were withdrawn, and so on and so forth. 15 dimensional side yard setback, which, you know, the 9.1.2 we just heard, student occupied dwellings, and as Ryan just said, the 2025 ledge updates. We had a couple of extensions of time, the short-term rental ordinance. I just put a note in there. It didn't come to you this year, but it may be coming to you in 2026. I thought that'd be worth mentioning. Of course, the hazard mitigation plan, which is administered out of our office. Our office redrafts that plan every 5 years. And then we do have multiple grants and projects that we were working on this year. Of course, the urban renewal zone grants, BRIC 2022, which is for the Foddering Farm causeway raising, and that's actually should be wrapping up by spring?
This June.
Yeah, by spring. So then we also finished that housing livability grant. I'm not sure if you remember that. That was with GrowSmart. And we had the Safe Streets for All. So Safe Streets for All was something we had started the year before, where they did an audit of the town. But then the folks from Safe Streets, Bowman, they actually had a little extra money, and they did 2 road safety assessments for us. So they did one on Boone Street and then one on South Pier Road, which just wrapped up. And if you're interested in either one of those or both of those, I can provide those to you. And the technical resilience grant, which we will be looking for, this one is a key one. We're going to be looking for someone to nominate themselves tonight before we go to participate in that. So GIS improvements, you know, we already have the online mapping tool. We have try to do our updates. This is a 2026 thing, but we will have a GIS person starting early next month. So in our office, we will welcome a 5th employee team member to the office, which we're really excited about because it's going to bring us, it's going to bring the town into not just the 21st century, but 2026 with
Star
GIS.
Trek.
Yes, Star Trek. And we're pretty excited about that. I know the town is as well. And then just the regular things that we always do, adopt a spot. The bike path, as you know, was there was a bike path that was recommended and approved by the town council. Gansett Days, so for Steve, I don't know, were you on the land trust then? Yeah.
Yes.
So Gansett Days, which is a sort of a 3-day festival here in town, the land trust does some pretty cool stuff. A couple years ago, we did the Gansett Loop Trail, and it's a 5.2 mile walk all through town. And then last year, they actually focused not only on the Gansett Loop Trail, but they did Sunset Farm. Sunset Farm has a pretty nice trail too. So, and the land trust, of course, continues to do trail mapping, and the community development certainly works on that. And the Katy Bungalow Preservation Easement, our department worked on that. And then we also, if you don't know, which you probably do, outside of planning and zoning and land trust, we have Historic District Commission. We also have Harbor Management and Conservation Commission. Their updates aren't in here, but just because they do have their own reports as well. I thought it was pretty interesting. You had 23 staff reviews were done, right? And then Heidi put together some great stats on us. Let's take a look here. Oh yeah, so we just talked about the meetings that we went to. You guys alone had 23 meetings last year. That's a lot of meetings.
The only
There's
people
only
with
12
more meetings
here.
are the town council. Yeah, if you look at those numbers.
Close. The town council probably had 30, 38, maybe 30.
But wait till next year.
Yeah.
Do those 23 planning board meetings include the workshops with the town council?
They do. They do. Yes. So this is meetings attended by staff, but the meetings that you attended, you attended as the planning board, you attended 23 meetings.
Okay.
Staff attended, so some of those are a little bit double, so I think they're actually 2 double. The 2 workshops, actually 3 workshops that you did with the council in 2025. Then of course your attendance, but if we do get to the stats are probably the most interesting part. So 14, so there are 14 subdivisions, land developments right now in the pipeline. And these are all the things that ended in that we have right now as of the end of 2025. And let me take a look here. Of course, the training that we went to, but then the objectives. So the primary objectives, I left a couple of these. I looked at them the other day, and I left them because they had been objectives that were previously identified, and I didn't want to take them out. But I do say they've been previously contemplated by the board or staff, so I left those in there. If this board is, and from a departmental perspective, I think they're all still relevant. But if there's something else that this board wants to work on, as I previously mentioned, inclusionary zoning or mixed use, just to name 2. So we should be adding those in.
So Jill, in order to make action, the recommendation that we made to the council last night regarding recodifying the zoning law, which, as I understood what we were talking about, was to hire a third party. Ultimately, we'd have to get someone to help us scope what needed to get done and then to execute on this, if I'm correct. Is that right?
That's what this board discussed, right? That is an endeavor that is larger than what the department would be able to. We could do it. It would be years.
Right. And that.
Need a red pen?
I
made a joke too. You say you don't want me in a red pen and you say that there?
On his motorcycle.
Yes.
So there seems to be residents in order to do something like that, both at the council last night and amongst here at the board as well. I'm not sure if you did that over in North Kingston at all during your tenure or not. Kind of just basically take, the last time, my understanding is the last time everything was taken a look at and rationalized was 1995, 93?
I believe it was June of '94.
94. And since then, there has been a number of changes to the code. So they've just kind of created, kind of got, unless you've got a spaghetti diagram, you can't figure it out. And so the thought process is to make it plain for, to the extent that you can make something like this plain for the purposes of citizens being able to use it, as well as essentially to be able to govern stuff that we need to do, is to do some level of recodification. You guys see that?
We never did a full recodification. They did bring in, I believe the company proposed it within one time, to do a major, almost like a compacting of the ordinance to restructure and reorganize and remove duplicate things, but it was a similar problem, is that staff is busy with everything they do day to day, that without going to an outside entity, just like with the comp plan, if you don't have some outside guidance or help with the comp plan, it will never get completed.
Right.
So one thing they did do is, they did create actually a flow chart. It was oversimplified so that residents would understand at least the process. And I think that flow chart is almost, I'm going to say, it's going to have a universal look for most communities. I don't think there's that much deviation because the state law dictates so much of the process. But, just like Dr. O'Neill said tonight, the couple that presented on their own, they did a phenomenal job, but that's not what you normally see. People always feel that they're compelled to bring in professionals because it's intimidating, and the process is intimidating. So.
The reason I raise it, Jill, is in the context of primary objectives coming up, it might be worth adding something to that effect in order so that, I think there's an opportunity to get a little traction on it. It seems to be, based on the feedback we got last night. So we'd have to think about what exactly we're trying to do in terms of securing the scope and securing a third party to help us with that scope in order to pull this thing off.
Yeah, so that would, this board could put together a scope or a subcommittee and then bring it to the board. It would require funding.
Right.
Right.
So,
through capital improvement.
correct.
So the earliest that could be put in,
It's probably next year.
would be next year, next August.
Right. So I just think it might be useful to add that to the
Sure, yeah.
objectives for
Yes.
subcoming year. I mean, to get that process moving, I don't have any delusions that it's going to be done over the course of the next year.
And I believe we talked about that, and what the order of operations would be. Do you want to get through the comp plan first and then do the ordinance? I think that was a conversation last time. Everyone's looking at me like that, there was definitely a conversation. But that one might be something you want to think about too. What is the correct order of operations? You want to, is the comprehensive plan first and then have the ordinance reflect the plan?
My inclination would be to try to travel on both tracks at the same time, because this one doesn't sound like it's going to get done in a fortnight, and we know the comp plan's not going to get done in a fortnight. And if we do it sequentially, based on how long it took to get the comp plan done last time out, we're talking about 4 or 5 years out.
2.5 years.
So absolutely, but Mr. Chairman, we don't have the luxury of 5 years anymore?
No, I'm saying 4 or 5 years out before we get started on this. You're saying we don't have the luxury.
We don't have the luxury of that for the comprehensive plan.
So when are we going to be done?
So the comprehensive plan expires in 2027, and the state law as it's written today, I can't say what it will change to, gives municipalities a 2-year grace period. So it's really 2029. The last time we did it, as Dr. O'Neill pointed out earlier today, and he remembered, 32 meetings over 5 years.
Right. So all I'm saying is to wait for this, to wait to do the recodification until the comp plan is done, puts the recodification out 4 or 5 years.
Understood, you want to do them concurrently?
Yeah. I mean, if the world were perfect, God were good. If ice cream wasn't fattening, yes.
We're gonna aim high. So that's it in a nutshell. If anybody has any comments or concerns or questions or all of the above, staff's happy to.
Let's see if I caught the same ones as Rupert.
No, I'm gonna say, people have what I'll call scribners. I would ask you to give them to Jill directly, rather than going through them tonight.
This is a content suggestion,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I have actually two. One is the item number 3, when it talks about planning board held 6 meetings, special meetings. Would it be useful to list the dates in there?
I'm sorry, where are we, Mr. Brennan?
Page 3, number 3, the 14 amendments, and it reads, the planning board had 6 special meetings. Would it be useful to have the dates in there?
Sure.
And then the other is on page 7. And this is a couple things. One is so that people reading this report that don't have the inside lingo down. Can we spell out what MLD means? Because I don't even know what MLD means.
Again, Mr. Morrissey?
Yeah,
On number 4, I'm sorry, pre-application reviews.
yeah, I can spell
And
that.
then my other suggestion is adding the number of lots created to subdivisions, because I think when I worked in Maryland, we had good information on how many lots were being created and how many subdivisions were being approved, and that really helps you understand what's going on in a community, and I think we're really missing that information here, so I think it helps us for the comprehensive plan work.
Well, I certainly don't have any objection to that. No,
One day was always good.
Okay.
Here's a question. When you say lots created, so we always refer to it as a 2-lot subdivision, right? There's already an existing lot, so you're really only creating 1 lot. Do you want to know the number of lots in the subdivision, or do you want to know the number of lots created?
Number of new lots created. I think.
Number of new lots created.
Which useful information, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Like, I guess Clark, I would think of 5. The one that was before us today would be 1 additional lot.
Right, exactly. Okay.
Clark 5 or 1?
Actually, Clark would be
right?
4 because there's already 1, right?
Yeah.
No.
The existing lot's there.
Oh, yes, I was thinking units. Did you want to know lots or units?
Now you gave him the. Somebody asked for both.
Yeah, subdivisions, I think of lots.
Lots, okay.
The interesting thing though is if you had a condo development that
Yeah.
came in,
There might be units.
I accept the amendment.
Jill,
Yes.
beyond conveying to you thoughts like that, do you need this board to do anything to act on this?
Yes, I do. I need you to vote on it with the amendments. We have 1 amendment to the planning technician description. That was a remnant sentence, the last sentence, which refers to the technician helping the HGC with GIS maps. They had done a previous, HGC had done an update where we needed to do GIS maps, so we can cross that out.
Chair,
Go ahead.
may I suggest one more amendment before making a motion? Under appointments, on page 2, 2025 key highlights appointments, I think it would be good to add Steve and Jim in there. They were appointed in 2025.
Did we not add that?
I think it's here.
Shame on us.
It's under, on page 6, planning board attendance, it does say that Steve and and Jim, when there are appointed dates for it, but.
The only thing I would say, Rupe, that the council did that action, not the planning department.
Okay. We mentioned people leaving, so I thought it'd be good to mention people coming.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But if you object,
I'm fine either way.
He's in a witness protection program.
So at the bottom of page 6, we talked about who came and who left as part of the attendance. If you want me to add it in under,
well, I saw the attendance, but yeah, it didn't really say who came. I guess it has appointments, yeah. It's up
to the board.
It's not a stickler point.
Yeah.
With those
Let's
suggested.
stick with it.
I
Either
don't
both
get
of you.
it.
So let's make it simple, leave it the way it is.
So with
Wait a
this,
minute, I actually had something. Yeah,
Where are we, Heidi?
page 8, this is something I just saw that. Phase 2, letter B, land cover update. Phase 2 of the will be initiated, including departmental objectives regarding GIS. It seems like there's a word missing. What I meant to ask though, Mr. Chairman, are you having minor edits? You call them what, scribble?
Scribners, if people have scribners,
Okay,
please send them along.
okay,
in my case, they are scribbles.
yeah.
Okay, so there is a motion. Are you prepared to make a motion? Okay.
I was going to move that we adopt the 2025 annual report as submitted with the amendments discussed tonight.
So I second that.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Unanimous. Yes.
Before we adjourn, I have something.
Tell us, we'll tell you if we want to hear it.
Jill had mentioned it earlier, in regard to the grant, that one of the grants that we currently have active, the Rhode Island Division of Statewide Planning Resilience Technical Assistant Grant, where ourselves and a consultant and our IDSP are reviewing the town's local regulations and ordinances to identify opportunities for incorporating resilience into our municipal regulations. We do need the board to appoint a liaison who will sit on the project partners group, which consists of I'll call it an onboarding interview where the consultant will interview the individual and discuss the project with them and how they see this board being fit, as well as sitting on I believe it's three meetings over a course of a year and a half that will have that will review the milestones and where we are in the project and what changes are being made. And then that liaison will bring that information back to the board as Steve and Rupert currently do for the other two boards of liaison.
Does you have an interest here?
I would be interested.
Anybody else?
I think my wife would murder me if I take it. She'd be too happy with me.
All right,
But I'll do it if you want.
You want to be murdered?
Yeah, why not?
Well, to save your life,
I appreciate that.
I'll nominate Rupert for this assignment. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed except for you, Rupert.
No.
Okay, I think we're ready for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're done. Thank you all very much.